I'm not. Yes, now I'm recording. Now I am recording.
Oh shit, where am I supposed to go? Nope, not there. Alright. Oh, there. I imagine we're live.
What kind of live?
Live stream offline.
Okay, so we're not live.
And we are live.
And we are live.
From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Greed.
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
Conlon? Andrew?
All right, we're back, and this is our Christmas Eve podcast. This is that's important touchstone.
Even when my imaginary friend Jesus was born.
When was your imaginary friend born? It kind of sucks. He has a combo birthday, Christmas.
We also celebrate his death. And it all involves food.
He died by food.
Merry Foodmas. Food for all of us. For all God's children. But yes, here we are. It's Christmas Eve.
He turned water into wine. I turned wine into piss. It's a great it's a great magic trick. Let me tell you.
We all love our wine. Brings meaning to our life. I never got into wine.
You're not a big wino.
No, I never. Well, I always get the hangover from it.
Oh, I was helping a friend peruse through wine rack catalogs today because he wanted the Cadillac of wine things or wine like fridges where it's basically it sits there and it's anti-vibration, so the bottles are in a static hold all the time and UV filters and all this other shit. It's like $4,000 for a fucking cabinet, and it's like, but you don't understand. It makes the wine perfect. I'm like, no, I don't understand. It's like
I've tried different wines. Like box wine totally works fine. I can't tell the fucking difference between any wine.
I've had some with food that other people picked, and I was like, I can see why this is good, but I'm not going to invest the time into finding out why. Or because when I look at liquor, it's like, well, a bottle of wine's about $25. So is a bottle of high proof vodka. Which one can I get more traction out of? I'm going to go with the high proof vodka. But
yeah,
no,
I
don't even do that anymore. I don't know if Conlon told you I quit drinking too, so now I'm just completely lame. Now I'm just fat. There's no unique facet to my personality.
I quit fatting.
Yeah. I don't know when I'm going to quit that. That's hard to do. Because you don't need to smoke, you don't need to drink to live, but you do need to eat. Now, maybe you don't need to eat a dozen donuts, but we got to cross those bridges one at a time. Yeah, I'm kind of in a weird mood today. I was doing some research or looking at some stuff for the podcast. And I've been watching BoJack Horseman and Breaking Bad kind of alternating all day. Sort of puts you in a strange headspace.
I think at some point those shows merge.
Yeah, I'm waiting for like a crossover episode. Because I hadn't seen BoJack Horseman since season 3, so I watched all of season 4.
Okay.
Like, wow, I thought season 3 was fucked up. But that show is just engineered for depression.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's all that is.
Yeah, when I get super depressed, I goes like, well, let's see how many seasons of BoJack Horseman I can cram into one day.
Yeah.
Turns out 3. because it's only a half hour, 22-minute show, and they cut out the credits. Like, you can get through a season in like 3 hours. That's like a movie.
Yeah, so that's like I said, it kind of put me in a weird headspace for Christmas. As Breaking Bad, I got 1 season left and I'm done. So
Okay.
yeah, I know you've been wanting me to watch that, and I've been trying. And then we had football hiatus for 3 months, and now I'm back.
Well, are you enjoying it, or is it just homework?
No, I enjoy it. I like it.
Okay.
I mean, I get what they're trying to do. Still hate his wife though. Every time she comes on the screen, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I don't know how the hell they did such a good job either writing her character or making her seem like such a bitch compared to him. Like, this guy kills people.
Yeah. Do you like the guy who's awful because he's kind of funny occasionally and you can relate to him somehow, but then at the end of the day you have to realize, oh, he's terrible. But yet she's the bitch.
Yeah, that is kind of the weird and I think she's a fine actress, and there's nothing like personal there. It's just I do not like the character.
I thought she was fine. Who I didn't really like was her sister. Like, I didn't understand her character at all.
Oh,
Well, I guess not at all. It's just like it felt like they were just giving, like, well, we have another actor in the show. We better give her something to do. It's like, well, she'll be a kleptomaniac, and then that was kind of like it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're unbalanced people between the two of them. So, but yeah, the Walter White's a good character. I've known a lot of people like Jesse Pinkman.
Yeah, Jesse.
Like, I know that guy.
His character kind of grows on you because he kind of seemed like, well, here's an idiot, but then like he has a lot more depth to his character later on. So. And
then I like the lawyer, Saul.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna get into Better Call Saul eventually, but I'm gonna get through this first.
Yeah.
I mean, again, that lawyer is like, oh, I've known lawyers like that, hired lawyers. Maybe not quite that low rent, but they all talk and act. Whoever wrote that really knew what lawyers are like when they're not in court.
Well, originally that character was supposed to die in that episode, but they liked him. They kept bringing him back. So
yeah.
Kill him off. I just really like their first interaction is like, put $1 in my pocket.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? It's like, look, it's like, if you put $1 in my pocket, then this is all confidential. or what do you call that?
Isn't that when he's in his own grave?
Yeah. he's got a fucking bag on his head.
It's like, yeah, way to talk yourself out of death. But yeah, those people really like that. So yeah, it's a good show. And Gus Fring is it's like, oh yeah, I've known people almost that nuts and evil and weird.
Mike the Cleaner.
Mike the Cleaner. I like how they're trying to hire a hitman. He's like, yeah, you're not going to be able to hire anyone that Mike doesn't know. He's like, well, how does Mike know all the hitmen in America? Yeah, probably. Small group. There's not a lot of people that do that kind of work that aren't undercover cops or, that's. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in that show. It's very believable for as weird as it is. Like, yeah, I could see these scenarios. Like, how are we going to hide all this money? And those are questions that never have been explored in detail in any TV show like that.
Well, except for Narcos.
Well, yeah, I haven't watched that yet. I've heard good things about it.
Yeah, there's stuff like they have so much money that they don't even count it anymore. They just roll up with a truck full of money. It's like, that's how much money we have. Or they have so much money that they lose money to rats eating it.
Yeah, it's a real problem. Whenever I've read stories like crime stories about people, if they're ever super successful, and it always involves drugs, it's like, because it's just pure cash business. Where do we put all this money? Because you don't realize how much like $1 million is. Because the biggest note you can get is $100. And it's like, that's several tons of money. Like, where do you fucking put all that? And well, it's not tons, but it's a lot of money. It's a lot more money than you can just readily hide and spend.
If it's not all hundreds, it's going to be a lot of cash.
Well, I like those guys in Iraq when the second Iraq war. Then the Husseins were trying to liquidate all their cash. They found $1 billion in $100 bills in a semi truck. It was literally filled with pallets of sealed money. And the fact that anyone knows about it is the testament to the honesty of the guys who found it. Because like, hey guys, life got really cool. But no, we're gonna turn this in.
We found $1 billion.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure it would be impossible for them to actually get anything back to the States for the most part with all that kind of cash. Like
You just load the Humvee and the trailer up with whatever you can take and drive to the nearest border because you have $1 billion. Doors will swing wide open for you. But no, they didn't do that. So, I mean, there were stories like that out of what was it? Out of Nazi Germany when the Nazis lost. They found just like all kinds of crazy stuff, like gold crucifixes and just giant bars of silver. Those guys are trying to steal all that shit. It's it's like I need 4 backpacks, because he's trying to put a bar of gold. They weigh, it weighs like 200 pounds or something because these were oversized bars. And the guys were sawing them up with hacksaws and the gold dust was just flying everywhere. I was like, that's thousands of dollars of dust. Fuck it. Bars out of here. So, yeah, that's always a problem is the physical limits of money.
I had an idea for I was going to combine that Fear the Sky book with Narcos.
How was that going to work?
So you have like a guy, he's like an FBI agent, and he's tracking this, drug cartel. And then like he gets too close, and so they kill his family or whatever. So then he gets extra mad about it, and then he like basically gets to the end of the story, and he kills the guy, like in some weird white room. Like, it's like he thought it was like some escape tunnel, and then it opens up like at the end of it, and it's like some manufacturing base, and like they're building like war machines for the oncoming alien assault, but they did it secretly through drug money.
Like the CIA funding the Sandinistas. These guys are funding. If you could capture all the drug money generated in this country, you could do a lot of good for people. But just take half the money, which is I think because the drug war is a failure, just enforcement is a failure. But it's like, well, give us half your profits off the books, and we'll do off the book. Like all of a sudden, we'd have bullet trains that go from New York to Los Angeles in an hour, just shit like this. Because people are going to use the drugs no matter what. So you might as well have some good come out of it. Instead of somebody's really tacky car or something, whatever the bullshit those people do with the money. Just give us half of it. That's what I don't understand about like this, what they say, like our life expectancy rate has gone down in America, and the rates of drug deaths are now like, it's like an epidemic. It's like AIDS almost. Like there's that many.
They finally... they finally gave like the opioid epidemic, like call it an epidemic, the amount of overdoses that were happening.
Well, but see, here's what I don't understand. It's like we're talking Breaking Bad. Okay, those opioids, the pills that people are ODing on, not the heroin, but the pills. That's not made in a lab in Juarez, Mexico. That's made in factories in the U.S. It's like, why can't we regulate that a little better? It's like, how come, like, if I went to the doctor with a bone sticking out of my arm, they'd give me Tylenol, but Billy Bob can get a freezer bag full of fucking Vicodin. It's like, I can't even get something. If I had a serious injury and just like, I just need to sleep for a few weeks. No, I can't help you. We don't want you to get hooked on that shit. It's like, this is crazy.
Yeah, that stuff's all like state by state. Because a lot of it was just like them opening up it's like, well, hell, if we sell a lot of pills, that means more money. And they they had no regulation on it whatsoever. It's like, as long as people aren't killing themselves.
Yeah, there's no gunfights in the streets over this shit. So, but yeah, it seems like something we could regulate because it's, again, not being made like meth in a illegal underground lab. It's like, oh yeah, the Merck pharmaceutical plant down the road. That's where half that shit's coming from. Well, okay. You think we could have some lot control on that? You know, but
Yeah, I mean it's more enforced now, but like in that book I was reading, Dreamland, like there literally people, they call them pill mills. A lot of
Yeah.
that in Ohio, but yeah, there's ones in Florida where a guy would just give you like a pad, like the doctor would just sell you a prescription pad, and you could just write your own prescriptions for Vicodin, pretty much. And like people would literally leave with a barrel full of fucking Vicodin.
and that's like no one's in that much pain. Or if they are, the pills at the bottom would expire.
Yeah.
But, that's don't understand it, but because it's starting to even happen here now. Because Michigan missed the boat with meth. I mean, we never really had the meth madness that's like Iowa was really bad. They were doing documentaries about Iowa, and then but Michigan. I mean, we have the old stuff though. We still got like the cocaine, the crack, all that's really big. But now the pill deaths are starting to happen here too, and the heroin's really bad here too.
Well, that's why like people started switching to heroin, because they were regulating those oxys better, so people were switching to black tar heroin and just heroin in general.
It seems like the way to go.
And grandmas, overdosing on black tar heroin.
Yeah.
Couldn't get my oxys.
So I've got to shoot this stuff in. You ready to bang veins, Granny? Yeah, why not? Help me tie off.
You can see all of them now.
Yeah, quite clearly. Yeah, that's bad stuff. But that's America. There's money to be made. Fuck the consequences. See what happens.
All in the name of progress.
I mean, where are countries where they don't have drug addicts running around? I know there are some.
Well, it's either gonna be like you have like Amsterdam, which there's drug addicts there, but it's like it'd be controlled somehow. It's like
Yeah, but it's only legal in the shops. It's not legal on the streets of Amsterdam. Portugal is where it's actually legal, like outright to like.
But I'm trying to come up with like the examples of one where there's no enforcement, and the one where like just people are killed for being drug addicts, and like those are the two places.
Well,
like in Japan, do they have drug addicts there running around?
They have drug addicts.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they do though.
Yeah.
I mean, what are the Yakuza for if there's not drugs to be hoisted upon the people?
I always think of the Yakuza's women in pasty makeup wearing robes.
No, that's geishas.
Yeah, we're the pasty makeup women hooker providers or whatever. I don't understand anything about Japanese culture, so there you go.
I was watching a video where people actually pay to go to hug cafes in Japan, where they just literally pay somebody real money just to hug them in different positions or different.
All right, hug my ass.
Hey,
thank
pay
you.
enough money,
Thank you.
They just strictly clothes on, but just hug in any way, shape, or form.
That sounds like a Japanese thing because they're not emotionally repressed or anything. So.
Or like combing your hair, brushing your teeth for you, or stupid weird fucking shit like nobody would ever want in any other place.
Yeah, if someone came at me with a toothbrush, I'd be like, get the fuck away from me.
No, pay me $20. I brush your teeth. No, get the fuck away from me.
Go fuck off.
And apparently there's like a bunch of bars where like women go to get the boyfriend experience. So that's why nobody has like boyfriends and girlfriends there, is because they just go to bars to get experience of being with somebody else. Where they're just the host like talks to them, asks them how their day was, makes small talk, and brings them drinks and shit. But then like when they leave, like, I feel fulfilled, I don't need a relationship, and then they just keep going back to that. And it's like, why the fuck do people do this shit?
I think one of the guys' podcasts I was listening to visited Japan. He was kind of talking about that a little bit, where he's like, here's the most beautiful women in the world that want nothing to do with relationships or anything like that. They just like looking pretty.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, they have some strikingly beautiful women in Japan, but they are not. They don't even care if you have money. They're just like not interested. Isn't that why their birth rate's so incredibly low, though?
Yeah, I don't know.
No, yeah, everybody's concerned about their own careers and making it, as far as like really hard work ethic, where they don't go home to their personal lives. and then they don't want relationships because they can buy the same feeling from about anywhere in the city. So it's.
I honestly don't know if that's just a cultural thing or what other factors are involved with it too. But
Yeah.
I already saw something weird the other day about. I was watching some video, it was a video game where the point was to like, you're an obsessive girl, and then you have to kill all the girls that are trying to hit on the guy you like.
This is a Japanese game.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's some point where she pushes a girl off a ledge, but as she falls off, she grabs her shoes, and then she sets them on the ground and like walks away. Like, oh, that was weird. But then I found out like there's that's something that Japanese people do if they commit suicide by jumping off a building. They take off their shoes first.
Of course. Because you wouldn't want to shoe.
Well, you're entering their afterlife, and you don't want to enter a house with your shoes on.
That's true. Yeah. They're odd people. They're endearing, though, in certain ways. We have a couple at work that are electricians, and they're always happy. Smiling, waving. Hello! They're riding their bike. Hello! I think they just don't want me to hit them with the Hello!
There's a darkness inside.
There's a reason for that.
I mean, there's definitely a darkness inside when you have reality shows that are hand job karaoke and fucking all your porno blurs out any genitalia, but for some reason keeps everything else. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, how the ways they're repressed don't make any sense.
They have game shows over there where it's like the idea they put sensors on a guy's penis and they have women do things and it'll sense if he starts getting an erection, and it's like like a light goes off, like, oh, you lost.
Fag.
So what you're saying is a gay guy would clean up at that show. Like,
Well, no, because sometimes the women are dudes that you don't know it, like that are doing things in front of you. And then they'll reveal at the end, it's like, oh, she's got a dick. Oh, I gotta go take my shoes off and jump off a building.
I thought the whole hand job karaoke thing was bad enough. As like, oh, your karaoke score while you're trying to see how long you can last and see if you don't break your tone while you're getting a hand job when you're singing. And if you don't, then you get buzzed out or whatever. It's like what the fuck?
Oh no, I got a hand job.
Yeah, let's do this and just never sing. Hold on. Okay, yeah, I got what I needed. Thanks. We're done here. That's a wrap.
There's like the waiting list for that show like a mile long.
Oh, they have crazy game shows. I did like the one that they brought here directly from there. They didn't change it a whole lot, where the team had to work together because the wall would move towards them, and they had to imitate puzzle pieces. Like,
that's like one of the tamest shows I've seen from them.
Yeah,
was that just called The Wall or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
I like the one where it had like math on the wall, like people panic and then but the wall was it was like completely, it looked like a wall, but like if you chose the right math question, like it'd basically be like a paper behind the wall, so you'd just like the wall would just break through you and you'd be fine. But then, like, people pick the wrong one and it's like, nope, just the wall. And just
Yeah, they have some interesting game shows, and they have game shows where they do insane stuff. It's like, oh, we're gonna pour liquid nitrogen on you. Like, what? What the fuck are you doing? Oh, just kidding.
There's one where they had a giant straw and there's a cockroach in it, and like the ladies were trying to blow the cockroach into the other lady's mouth.
No anxiety here, folks.
Wasn't there one a long time ago that ABC ripped off too, where it was just like literally people doing weird, crazy like obstacle courses or insane.
Is that Wipeout?
Stunts? Yeah, Wipeout.
And that was based on whatever MXC was in Japan.
Yeah.
Now they have like American Ninja Warrior and
yeah,
those are actually really hard to do.
Yeah.
Some of those, like where the guy's lifting his body weight with pegs, it's like, oh, that's insane. You need to get monkeys to do that shit.
Well, sometimes they build those courses and they're like, oh fuck, nobody made it through.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
Well, there goes that season. Everyone was a failure.
They don't kill themselves though. They keep coming back in America. Japan, they all go home and kill themselves.
I've brought dishonor for my family.
Yeah, see, they'll do that, but then they'll lie about like Fukushima. It's like, how much radiation got released? Not much. Oh, really? Okay. Well, not according to the satellite picture. Like, that's American propaganda, fake news. Well, no, not really.
I saw some of the new season of the Grand Tour.
Oh yeah, I've been meaning to watch that. I haven't. Was the first episode the where the one guy almost got killed?
Yeah. I thought that was going to be in a later episode. Like, nope, first episode. Here's a prototype car. He just burnt to death. My favorite part of that is when they're doing the drag race. The Rimac, that's the electric supercar that the guy was driving.
Yeah.
And so they take off, and then Jerry Clarkson is just like surprised, like, Jesus Christ, that thing just fucks right off, doesn't it?
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, something weird with that car where it was like all the engines were aligned at the wheels.
Okay, yeah, it had four engines.
4 engines for each wheel.
Yeah, oh yeah. They're very powerful, but they don't, for 50 miles, they're the greatest thing ever. And it's got to wait 12 hours for it to charge up again.
Well, that's always like electric cars always have better acceleration. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because electricity is like near speed of light, and they're just transferring that as
Yeah, there's no combustion step, and all the energy resolving that way. It's all just direct line.
Yeah, it's all DC direct drive. DC is just instant on. When you have DC motors, because that's what robots use, that's why I know this. It's just however much power you put in them, they'll run. I mean, it doesn't. There's no like he said, there's no momentum to build up. There's no crankshaft and flywheel running power through transmission. No, it's just as much power as you can pour into it. It'll go right to the peak of its operating range.
Yeah, because that's what I mean. When DC and AC current came out, and the whole battle between the two currents with Edison and Tesla and stuff like that, the only reason DC lost wasn't because it didn't have pure power. It couldn't go the distance for it. It would lose power over time.
Yeah. So
think of it like that with a gasoline engine versus DC. You're going to lose power and bleed power through all those transitions and all those lines into everything. So it's just, your current just going straight from, how many inches of wire from the motor to the battery is just like fucking pure electricity, obviously.
Well, I drove a diesel car the other day.
Which one?
VW, whatever it was.
Yeah, those are nice till you realize there's $70 to fill up, because diesel fuel's like $3 or $4 a gallon now.
Yeah, but you only got to fill up like once a month or something. But
nah, they only. What's the range on those?
Isn't it like 32 miles a gallon or something?
That might be. I mean, it's better than gas, but it's not a whole lot better.
But I'm used to seeing, like, I don't think I've ever driven diesel anything before, but I'm used to seeing like trucks, and then like when they start up, it's just kind of the slow burn and stuff like that. It's like, it's all torque and everything like that. It's not really speed. But like I could not tell any difference whatsoever. It just drove like a car for me.
Did it have a tack in it?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's weird when you look at the tack and you're like going 60 miles an hour, you're accelerating, and you look down, it's like 2,100 RPMs. Like, what?
No, I wasn't racing with that. I was just casually driving it. It was a manual, so.
Oh, okay. They're very durable. They last forever.
Yeah.
Very heavy though. I think they're all cast iron still. Maybe the new ones are different. But
I don't know.
I've driven a few different. Well, I've driven a full-on semi, so that's a different experience. Okay, now shift gears. Like, we just went 5 feet. No, shift gears.
How many gears are in a semi?
The one I drove was like called an 8-ball or a Super 8. So there's 8 low, 8 high. There's low range, high range. It's like a Rockwell T144 transmission.
So what's the difference between low and high range?
Just different. You can actually, I forget what you're doing. You're changing the ratio though. There's a button you pull up.
Oh, okay.
And your high range is your highway gears. Your low range is for like mountains and hills.
Okay.
And, I don't know if you're changing the ratio and the differential or how you're doing it, but yeah. So there's 16 running gears, but there's really 8. But the first 3 in low range are like 1, 2, 3. We're going 10 miles an hour, but you're also pulling tons behind you. So
yeah.
There's all kinds of variations, but the most common is like the Rockwell T144. It's Super 8. I mean, there's some that have like 32 gears and like step gears for mountains. There's all Chris. I haven't seen him in years, but he's drive trucks professionally. He could tell us all that shit. I've just gleaned things over the years. Because when you get inside one, you're like, wow, this looks complicated and cool. But then you realize there's only like 5 things you do regularly. And most of those buttons and dials you see have to do with your brake system. And that's about it. Like, oh, okay. So this looks like a spaceship, but it's really not that complicated.
Yeah, aren't the brakes on those like for safety reasons? They're always trying to collapse onto the brake, and then like you're just kind of doing the reverse.
Yeah, when
like you're just letting off the thing so it can brake the car.
Yeah, car brakes are just a hydraulic system where the more pedal pressure you apply, it goes through a vacuum pump and it drives hydraulic rams that force the calipers close force the brake pistons to close the calipers on a diesel or on a semi truck or a skip lorry or whatever. It's like, no, when you press the brakes, you're releasing air pressure so that they clamp up tighter. Then, so it's like backwards. But yeah, they're always trying to, because if the air system fails, those brakes just lock up.
Yeah.
Oh, when you ever heard a truck stop because it busted an airline or something? That's a pretty ominous sound.
No, I haven't. Are there videos we need to watch?
Oh, you can watch YouTube videos or work in any Ford switching yard. Yeah, it's psst, you'll hear that, and then all of a sudden you'll hear whoa. Oh, that thing's coming to a stop. Train uses. There's trains now. I love watching the trains drive through the plant. That's cool.
I always remember we were in West Virginia and they had those runaway truck ramps.
Oh yeah, the sand ramp.
That's ominous.
Yeah, once you nail the brakes enough, they'll just cook off and fail. They'll just quit working. So yeah, you got to run into sand or something to kill your forward momentum. If not, you'll just fly off the side of a Virginia mountain. Tale that they'll tell the kids. This truck made a screaming sound as it came down.
The driver wouldn't stop screaming as we pillaged his vehicle and his body.
Yeah. That trailer became my home.
Once it falls over, it's the world's then.
Yeah. Like the people that ram the ships, the primitive braking yards. Where they do that at? In India?
Or
where
they
run the old cargo ships. Yeah, in Africa they do that.
Yeah,
and then
they do it a lot in India and Africa, every third world country where there's naval refitting and salvage.
Or no laws.
Yeah, laws.
Just crash this thing on the shore. It won't break.
Yeah, it's like this is an American cargo vessel built in the 60s. It's big, giant diesel motor and just made out of nothing but asbestos. It's like, where are we going to get rid of it? I know. Just put a rock on the accelerator and this helicopter just runs right into the beach. These guys come running out. Remember that Nicolas Cage movie, Lord of War, when they had to ditch the plane? It's like, we're just going to land this plane in some African country. And the guy's like, what about the planes? Like, oh, that'll be gone by morning. And all the villagers come running out and they're just carrying away wings and shit. Yeah, same cons, just like ants. It just slowly disappears. They actually do ship breaking here up north.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool. They have like guillotines. They put the water. They put the ship in this thing. They drain all the water out, and it's got like cradles, and they have a crane just swing over, and it's got this big multi-ton slab of steel that's kind of sharp on one point. Crane operator just gets it over and cuts the brakes loose, and it just cuts the ship up into 4 or 5 squares. But they just recycle it for the metal. They just crush it and recycle it. I forget what kind. It's only a certain kinds of ships, though. Like the asbestos ships somehow never make it to America. They don't bring them to the St. Lawrence Seaway so they can shipbreak them in northern Michigan. They don't want to pay the fees. Why would you? Just drive it onto a beach somewhere in a third world country. Oh.
Should we talk about Star Wars now?
Yeah, we kind of ran out of steam on random topics that have nothing to do with anything. So, yeah, I saw The Last Jedi last weekend. When did you see it?
I saw it last weekend as well.
And you saw it too, Andrew?
Yeah, I saw it last weekend.
Oh, okay. So what's your consensus on this? I hear this is a divisive movie. A lot of people are divided over this movie.
I mean, I thought it was definitely weird. Had some weird pacing issues. The humor's kind of iffy, although I like some of it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the more I think about it, the more I like it.
Yeah. It was different. It wasn't it was a Star Wars movie in a lot of ways. It had those bones to it, but yeah, they had a running space pursuit, which was very, very reminiscent of Empire. And then
or
they had
that episode of Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, the one where they never could sleep because every 23 minutes the Cylons would find them. Yeah, it was a.
Well, that's well, what was the other thing I was gonna say? I'm already forgetting. Oh, continue on.
There was a lot of attempts in this, I think, to bring the mysticism of the Jedi back, which is something we haven't seen in a while. Yeah. We've seen Jedi as like just guys that are really good fighters, but we kind of forget that whole mystical, magical element of it.
Now I remember the thing. Well, because Force Awakens was so just a carbon copy of A New Hope.
Yeah.
I kind of went in this movie thinking like, okay, everything's just going to be a parallel to Empire.
Right.
So every time you go in thinking that you expect something to happen, they do something different.
Right.
So I like that they did something unexpected like every time.
Yeah.
That didn't mean it was necessarily the best decision, but I liked it nonetheless.
I think they took some chances here. It didn't seem as like the Force Awakens seemed really controlled. Like we're going to make the best Star Wars movie we can, and we're going to emulate the best Star Wars movie ever made, which was New Hope. And we're going to play it safe. And in this movie, it seemed like they took a few chances. Like you said, yeah, the humor in the movie was different.
Well, I listened to the Red Letter Media guys talk, and like that first moment where it's like they do the prank call thing, which I thought was kind of funny. Like they said that was like they're sitting in a Deathly Science theater, and then some guy just gave like a courtesy laugh.
Yeah,
I thought it was kind of funny. It was kind of played the bit a bit too long, but yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I enjoyed it. Grayson said the first half was torture for him, but he said the second half kind of made up for it.
Yeah.
He didn't care for that whole sideline story on the planet of arms dealers and all that. He was like, well, that was just to give those people something to do.
I don't know, that's kind of important. I think, well, it might be more important for whatever Rian Johnson's going to do for his trilogy that he's doing separate for Star Wars.
Okay.
Because that's the whole idea of it's not just mysticism fighting each other, but like, no, the real evil is the arms dealers and just rich people controlling everyone's lives. I thought that was a new angle for Star Wars, which is there in like in the books. Some of that is, but not so much in the movies.
Yeah. But yeah, it was
And that last planet was really fucking cool.
which one?
The Salt Planet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
It's
where
like
we,
where everything moved around, looked like it was bleeding.
Yeah. yeah, that was. I mean, it was a good movie. Overall, again, I was satisfied with the experience. I don't know if it broke new ground, but
No.
I think it.
I mean, maybe for Star Wars a little bit, it did some different things.
Well, see, Rogue One was really good for that. It was like, oh yeah, this is a different interpretation of the universe almost,
Yeah.
or at least you'd never seen one quite so bleak.
Made the Republic look more like terrorists rather than just like a plucky band of rebels.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, these people are going to just definitely do a lot of damage. But yeah, this is, full on warfare is very damaging.
But yeah, the pacing issues was mostly with the different storylines and how they were cut. Because it's like you have a time limit for the main storyline or the ship storyline,
Mm-hmm.
and then you cut to like the Luke story, the Luke and Rey story, and then you kind of cut back between them. But it seems like a week has gone by in one, and then you cut to where another sequence where it seems like just an hour has gone by. But they give them like time, like, you have 18 hours left. It's like, it's been 2 days already. So that was really weird. So like there's never really consistent. But apparently there's like a 3.5 hour cut of this movie.
Oh, okay.
That was like his first, like, not just a rough cut, but like his first pass was like a 3.5 hour movie.
Oh, well, there should be some interesting cutscenes then. Or some interesting added scenes or whatever.
I was I don't know, pleasantly surprised, but I was pleasantly surprised by the Porgs that they were just kind of the right kind of annoying.
Yeah, I didn't mind the Porgs. I kind of liked them. It's
Like,
like,
I
yeah, I
thought-
can see something like that.
Like from the trailer, I thought they were gonna be like a character, like this little thing's flying the spaceship or some shit like that. But no, it's just some weird animal.
The Chewbacca's eating,
Yeah.
Or trying to eat.
Yeah.
trying to eat. I won't leave him alone.
Now the thing's giving me sad eyes. I can't eat its mother.
So yeah, it was just the right amount of cutesy. I didn't mind it. I actually thought they were kind of neat. So
I heard that the reason they existed at all is because it was cheaper to make whatever the wildlife around there. I can't remember what they're called, but they're kind of birds that look like that, but they don't have those mouths or eyes like that. I can't remember, but like they were just on the island. I guess it was cheaper just to, instead of just trying to digitally erase all of them, they just washed them over with the Porg thing.
oh, okay. Well, yeah. There's always a reason.
Well, apparently that island they're shooting on, it's some island in Ireland, and it has like special circumstances, so like you basically can't disturb anything on the island.
Oh, you can just film there, but you can't like disturb nesting birds and stuff.
Yeah, or you can't like build any structures or anything like that.
Oh,
So where the hell did they build a little tiny Jedi hut thing at then?
I mean that could have been on a soundstage, but
yeah.
Like I said, they did more than just walk around an island. They had like little huts and a tree and shit on there. They did stuff with. I was like, that doesn't make any sense then. But no,
And the
but
The bad-
I think I like who's Rose, like I don't know, Finn and Rose, like I feel like Finn didn't really have anything to do, or at least it's kind of disappointing when everything they do fails.
yeah.
he can't even kill himself properly.
Yeah, the Benicio del Toro character was interesting.
I hear some people hate him, but I like him because, well, it's Benicio del Toro playing a weird character, so that's always fun.
Yeah, and he does that well.
But he also had just a lot of sides to it where he seemed like, because like there's that special amulet that the sister has, and like he uses it just to like override something, and then he hands it back to her. It's like, oh, he has a heart, and then like, and then he does it.
Yeah. That's the thing. He kept swinging back and forth because he has this object lesson for Finn about who's the evil in the universe, and because they stole a arms dealer ship, and it's like, yeah, here's all the First Order shit, and oh yeah, here's the rebel shit, and this guy's selling it all to everyone, and it doesn't matter as long as he makes money. And yeah, because he seemed redemptive when he gave that back, and then nah, I'm just gonna fuck you over for money. And the Empire, the First Order, whatever, I like when they pay off their bad people. It's like crates of money, like it's like shipping containers full.
I also kind of wondered if the guy with the red robes, if he was an actual character, or if that was just like a red herring or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where that was supposed to go.
Because it kind of zoomed in on a guy, like when they get put in jail for a second, or when they're getting dragged off, and he kind of looks at him for a second. But then somebody, like, there's some clip on YouTube where somebody compared how that guy was dressed to Indiana Jones in the beginning of Temple of Doom, where he has like a red rose on.
That might be interesting. Yeah, overall, I think it was a good movie. It was different. It was a lot different than what I thought it'd be.
Yeah.
But it was pretty good.
It was both funnier than I thought it would be, and at times darker than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
They kill everyone except for Leia, who's actually dead.
Yeah, the one person.
Yeah, every time I saw Carrie Fisher in that movie, it just made me sad because I miss Carrie Fisher. But same.
I like the way she acted, because in the movie she just seemed kind of like this. She seemed really addled in the movie, but always had insight.
Yeah.
You know, she became almost a lot like. Well, speaking of James S.A. Corey, she kind of channeled Avasarala a little bit. Like, what the hell do you think I'm doing here? And then the fact that, yeah, she really died. I didn't realize she had that big a part in this movie until I was like,
yeah.
Because
as soon as she got blown out of the space, it was like, oh, that's how they kill her. And then she comes back. She's a space witch.
No, between that
and I like that.
Yeah,
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was saying between that scene and Luke's hand not clunking to the ground, when he disappears into the Force or whatever at the end of the movie, that was the two main problems I have with the movie. That and probably too many jokes. It's like, seems way too lighthearted for for this movie. Like, everybody's about to die. Let's make a joke. Like, let's do it. But no, like, everybody seems to be really upset about the whole, like, Luke dying, but like he disappears into the Force like Obi-Wan did or whatever. But then his metal hand that's not part of him organically doesn't clunk to the ground.
That's part of the
Just
Force.
his robe. And then they even revealed in like interviews after post edit, like, oh yeah, we should have put that in there, but we forgot.
Just his
about
hand clanking to the ground.
Yeah, because people are like,
Well,
saying
then how
now
his
Luke's
clothes
not
go?
actually dead.
What about his clothes? Well, I guess well,
Yeah, his robe.
the robe, I
Yeah.
guess.
But it's like, I made a joke or whatever. It's like, well, if you jerk off enough time with a metal hand, apparently it becomes part of your body. But now everybody's speculating like Luke's not actually dead. He's gonna come back because his metal hand didn't clunk to the ground or whatever. It's like, okay, I don't know about that, but at the same time,
Well, I think it's obvious he's going to be back for the next movie, but just as the Force Ghost shit.
yeah, the Force Ghost shit.
Ghost shit.
I also like how apparently there was an after credit scene that I missed, or unless I missed.
Oh, was
something.
there? Okay.
Well, because like they talked about how Yoda's line where it's like he's gonna burn down the Jedi Temple is like there's nothing in there that Rey doesn't already have or whatever or possess, and then what he actually meant was all the books are safer than Millennium Falcon instead of in the fucking temple getting burned down. The temple was
Yeah, they're in the. Did
Yeah.
you see him?
No, I didn't see him in the movie. Apparently.
You know when Finn goes to get the blanket for Rose,
Oh,
then that thing he opens up, they're all in there.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
So maybe it wasn't post credit scene, but still. At the same time, apparently I didn't notice that because I thought there would be some dialogue attached with it, like "What the fuck are these?" Or
No, I mean they completely just blew by it. They didn't like acknowledge it whatsoever. It's like I need a blanket, not the important text of the Jedi.
And yes, Finn should have died a hero's death instead of being basically, I don't know, anti-gayed by somebody running into him and kissing him. That wasn't Poe Dameron. Like, I think Disney just did that as a knee-jerk reaction so they wouldn't have two gay hero characters. It's like, quick, we gotta make him not gay.
and we need an Asian character for the Asian audience.
That's funding most of this movie.
Well, that's the thing there. I watched a video about how films get released into the Chinese market. And, like, basically there's only a set number of films every year, and they always petition for them to go up. So unless you, like, actively work with,
there's two ways around it. You can either, like, pay for it.
yeah,
You can
either
get your slot, or it can be, or if it's funded by a Chinese company.
No, if you partner with somebody, so they do like half the work. Like
Yeah.
there's actors, they finance, they also produce and direct. But nobody likes that because then they give away a lot of the creative control to the Chinese people. Or yes, you hire some Chinese actors to be in it, and you take money and stuff like that. Like that's basically the ways around it.
Yeah, because if you there's a lot of big movies. There's that you see that Alibaba thing in front of it. It's like, oh, this is a co-finance with the Chinese.
Yeah, because otherwise,
Now, was the woman who played the character was she Chinese?
I don't know.
I think.
I thought she was an American. I'm not sure.
Oh, I don't know. Like, yeah, I think she's American.
Like ethnically,
Ethnically,
she's
she's
Asian.
Chinese,
But yeah, I don't consider people Chinese if they were born in San Diego. It's like, well, okay, you're an American.
I think whatever I read, I think they just said she was Chinese, but I could be completely wrong. I don't know exactly.
Yeah.
I could be led astray.
There's many other countries where people from Asia come from. So
But no, I just like whatever I read. I've heard her heritage directed to China, or I could be completely wrong. You know, there's both. Both can happen. Although I did read, I did read a strangely I guess not really in depth article. They call it the Holdo maneuver, which he turns the ship around and then just goes hyperdrive through the thing.
Yeah, the one Laura Dern. Yeah, who I thought was an interesting casting choice.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw her, I was like, "That's Laura Dern." It's like, is David Lynch going to show up pretty soon?
Is she gonna tell everybody to go fuck themselves and then turn into a ball of light and disappear?
Yeah, well, kind of, but yeah.
But yeah, they talk about how like it complicates things in the universe because like if that happens now, it's like, why didn't anybody else ever do this ever? Why don't you just build a torpedo that can go light speed and just direct it at a ship and go light speed?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Well, if the rebellion's got its back against the wall, we just put a bunch of droids in old ships and just use them as hypersonic or hyperlight. What do you call those guys? Kamikaze things. But
yeah. Because I thought what she was gonna do is like she was gonna go into hyperspeed and then just immediately jump back out of it, like in the middle of the ship. Because that makes more sense to me. Because like how Star Wars sort of the science works is the same as how it works in Star Trek, where you're not existing in the same space as everything else. You're going into subspace, which doesn't have all the shit in the way, and it's like smaller or whatever, and that's how you can better go the speed of light. Because you're kind of going into a different universe to move that fast, so shit's not in the way. Because I think there's been like examples of that in Star Wars where it's like you're facing a rock, but you go into hyperspace, you're not running into the rock, you're just avoiding. And then actually like they're like cite examples from previous Star Wars movies, where it's like, you know, if you don't get the calculations right, then you're gonna get pulled out of hyperspace by a sun or a
supernova.
Yeah, something with a lot of gravitational force. Like a gravitational pull is the only thing that can pull you out of a hyperspace or something like that. But
that's they have in the expanded universe. They have the Empire has things called interdictors, which they create giant artificial gravity wells. So when they fight the rebels, they can't just jump into hyperspace and flee the Empire. But I don't know if that ever made it into the movies or not. I don't think they ever talked about it.
I think so. In the books, and also the Armada game, because I have a ship model of the interdictor.
Okay.
It's pretty cool looking. Looks like a giant Star Destroyer with 4 boobs.
Yeah.
But that moment's really cool, so you kind of forget all that shit.
Yeah.
I'm kind of waiting for like all the new ship models from the new like Snoke's carrier, or not carrier, but like huge ass ship, and then the Dreadnought, because both those ships look really badass.
I was talking to when me and Grayson were in the movie. I was like, "Why is Snoke's flying an oversized B-2 bomber? Like, is that badass ship? Is just a giant stealth bomber?
We're out of cool shapes."
Yeah, that's why I thought the most inventive evil ship was always the Borg. It's just like, yeah, why wouldn't you design a ship like that in space? It's just this giant cube. There's nothing out here to aerodynamics. Just you can efficiently mount everything on corners. If you want to get weird, make it a pyramid, big space pyramid. But
I thought the new Rebel bombers look pretty cool too. But that's the first time I've ever seen anything.
It looked like a bulky B2 or what are those?
B-wing.
B-wing, yeah.
But like
that's what I thought.
The fact it was kind of crude, like a World War II bomber, though, was kind of cool.
That was kind of neat and kind of stupid at the same time. How, because it drops like there's gravity. Like I know there could be thrusters or magnets or some shit like that, but it looks like there's no gravity. But it looks like it's dropping because of gravity.
That's what I always thought. Like the only good thing about the prequels was, you know, the droid armies and the droid ships. It's like, yeah, absolutely do that first. It's like, yeah, they're not really super smart or quick, but when you have 100,000 of them, it doesn't really matter. It's like, why are we putting men in spacesuits and ships when that's expensive as fuck? Just send a droid brain up there. Nobody cares if they die unless they're like cute.
Although I only understood the controller detonator for dramatic purposes, but not for any kind of reasonable sense.
Yeah. Again, yeah, we're gonna send people into the vacuum of space in dangerous ships that are, you know, susceptible to all kinds of gunfire, and, you know, any breach of the hull, and this person's going to get their lungs sucked out their mouth. But the only way we can detonate these bombs is by having an organic person press a button. It's it's a weak plot point.
I only know the Wi-Fi signal was really weak out there, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Or I couldn't get the band.
Well, there's a lot of nonsense like that in Star Wars. It's like in Rogue One. It's like, oh, you have the reprogrammed Imperial droid, which is faster and better than any person. It's like, why don't you just have a fucking army of these? You know, the sarcastic droid, because he like caught a grenade out of the air and threw it behind him and continued his conversation. As if, like, yeah, you need a lot more of these. You don't need to train them or wait for them to grow. You just program them and send them out in the field. I mean, I guess the argument there is like, well, they can be programmed against you. It's like, well, yeah. But they're also self-aware and then kind of not. And it's like, oh, okay. But it's Star Wars. Fuck it. Just, yeah, enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I need to watch Rogue One again because that's still the better Star Wars film out of the new era.
Really? Okay. Because I've been hearing like a lot of hate against it recently. Like, just people just saying like, I thought that movie was stupid, and then I go into my spiel. It's like when I saw the commercial for Rogue One, I said, this movie will only be worth it if everyone dies at the end of it. I almost cheered when everyone died at the end of that movie.
Well, when I saw who the initial director was, I was like, oh, yeah, this is good. This guy's notorious for making dark, somber movies. And, of course, the guy that got fired.
Was it, who did that?
Gareth Edwards.
Was he fired, or was he the one that eventually did it?
No, he got fired,
oh,
and then
did?
they someone else because it was so dark. Because there's scenes from that movie that were in the trailers that weren't in the movie, because they went in and redid it all at the and they made it. Everyone died still, but they made it less dark. Yes, I don't know, but yeah, it was. And I'm not sure what all the reasonings behind that were. Nobody said anything really. Gareth Edwards was kind of like, yeah, no comment, you know. So. He wanted a career, so he's like, yeah, don't piss off the mouse or you're done. It's just like that Han Solo movie. I mean, they fired those two guys and brought in Ron Howard. It's like halfway through the movie. Okay.
Well, I mean, apparently what I've heard is like that movie was like 75% done, or at least shot. I don't know if all the special effects and stuff like that were done, but there's a lot you can do in reshoots. I mean,
oh yeah.
I heard, because it kind of sounds like that movie might be a train wreck, but who knows? Because I hear stuff like the main guys didn't want. Well, I hear things that got fired because their vision was different, but also they didn't want the guy they hired to play Han Solo. Like they had to give him a fucking acting coach.
Yeah.
Because apparently,
I heard that. Act. Well, that's a problem that Star Wars has had. I mean, they got lucky getting Harrison Ford and some of the other people, but yeah, they've always had that problem because they can't pay the huge money to have all name actors in it, so they get these people that are kind of off the wall, and they've always had that problem. That was a problem.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes it's just because big actors don't want to be
associated with it, because then they'll only be associated with Star Wars.
Because
wasn't it's not really association. Just sometimes. Well, I mean, it used to be a bad thing. Like. That was the thing with Star Trek. Like, nobody wanted to do sci-fi movies because, like, well, there goes the rest of your career because you're just going to be, you know, this this is gonna be the
Spock
rest
or
of your...
whatever.
Because isn't
Yeah.
that why that the I can't remember her name, the chick that played Tasha Yar, like that's why she killed off her character because somebody told her that this is gonna ruin your career because no one will hire you for anything else but like Star Trek roles. Or
Yeah,
like
probably something like that.
But now
That didn't really work out for her very well.
no.
So
But nowadays, like it doesn't really matter. But
No, I know. I mean, I don't. Is the woman that plays Raven in anything besides Star Wars?
she hasn't had anything starring after this, but she's had a bunch of bit parts. Like she was in that. She's one of the people in that new Murder on the Orient Express movie.
Oh, okay.
And she's had a lot of other guest character roles.
I know I've seen, because obviously the guy who plays Finn was in The Circle. He's going to be in the new Pacific Rim movie as one of the leads.
Yeah.
But like other than that, like I know he's more up and coming as well. And then the guy who plays Poe Dameron's been in quite a few movies.
Oh yeah, he's a real actor.
Yeah.
He's in a bunch of shit.
is he British or?
I think he's American, but I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I've only really seen him play American roles, so I just associate him as being American.
Sometimes I don't know anymore. It's the Walking Dead effect. It's like, yeah, all these guys that are playing like, oh, I'm a sheriff from Georgia. It's like you hear the guy actually talk. You're like, oh shit. Like Andrew Lincoln's not an American. I didn't know that.
Well, if you'd watch that one stupid romantic comedy, which does it say anything, or is it what the fuck is it?
What?
The one Andrew Lincoln's in where he's actually British. The
Who's Andrew
romantic
Lincoln?
comedy with like fucking Hugh Grant and like all this other, like he's standing outside the woman's door with like the fucking placard cards like saying he loves her and shit. I can't remember
What
what
is
the
that
fuck it is.
fucking shit?
That fucking stupid goddamn movie.
Well, that movie's actually all right for what it is, but I can't
Love
remember.
Actually. I think,
Yeah, that's it. Love Actually. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's the only thing I've seen Andrew Lincoln in where he's actually British. Everything else has always been American.
Who's Andrew Lincoln?
He's the guy who plays Rick Grimes on The Walking Dead.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, he's in like all.
I actually know him as Ian Anderson's son-in-law. That's what because he's married to Ian Anderson's daughter. The guy who founded Jethro Tull.
Oh, okay.
If I ever met him, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, you're Ian Anderson's son-in-law, right?"
I just remember he's in because he's like the guy in God, Shawshank Redemption who like he came from another prison and he finds out that he's actually innocent. Because
Oh, is that him?
yeah, because the guy who directed that movie, he directs a bunch of other Stephen King movies. He always hires him on, and that guy ended up running like the first 2 seasons of The Walking Dead.
Oh, Jan Darabont or whatever.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. The guy they fired because he
Yeah.
wanted money.
Oh, was it a money thing? Yeah.
I knew it
No,
was a
because
money
they had
thing.
created differences too.
Yeah.
Where he wanted more zombies and stuff.
Oh.
They're like, no. And it's like, it's a fucking show about the zombie apocalypse. How does this not make sense to have more zombies?
I kind of checked out of that show years ago. It's like, oh yay, something horrible again.
Yeah, I don't think I haven't watched I've only seen like the first 3 seasons. So.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's just after a while it gets repetitive.
Yeah.
No, it does, but I mean, it grows into a more what the comics are about, which is that obviously humans are the real threat, and the zombies are just set dressing and something else to worry about. Basically, like watching so you don't step on a rusty nail while you're trying to somebody's trying to murder you with a pickaxe or something. Like,
I did see the first episode of that Z Nation show.
Oh, that fucking show's horrible.
Yeah, but like in a way that's like I can accept.
I couldn't accept that shit.
Because like, yeah, this is kind of terrible, but they actually had like good actors, but then they killed them off immediately. It's like, oh, okay. Well, I found out that the the Asylum guys who make the Mockbusters or the Sharknado, like they made that's their show.
I watched the first 3 episodes of that show, and I wish I had my life back.
Yeah, no, it looks like it's clearly it's like we're gonna rip off The Walking Dead, but we're gonna do it with like somewhat humor, but with really cheap everything. But I saw a preview for like their new season, and it had Henry Rollins in it, and then there was like a ball of zombies. Like zombies, there's so many of them. They're just rolling around on a giant ball. It's like, well, this is fucking stupid. But of course it would be.
No, I mean I don't know. Zombieland was a really good, more lighthearted zombie movie like Apocalypse, variation. But as far as that goes, like if you're gonna do Apocalypse, don't make it. I mean, fucking like light and jokey and shitty special effects. It doesn't. I mean, that's my problem.
Well, I think like in some way like they're picking on all the other shows that do it seriously.
Yeah.
Because like because we were talking about that earlier, the Van Helsing show. It's like compare that with Z Nation. It's like, well, at least Z Nation has some humor. Van Helsing is obviously better, but still not really good.
Yeah, Van Helsing.
It's taking itself very seriously.
Yeah, Van
Yes.
Helsing doesn't have any humor, and it's very. I don't know. I don't know how to explain that show to make it sound good at all. 'Cause
It's
really
not really.
Don't worry, I'll never watch it, so you don't need to try to sell it to me.
Well, the only interesting concept. Well, the only interesting concept I like is they have like, the volcano that's underneath Yellowstone, like the super volcano, like it
The Caldera volcano.
it erupts, and because it erupts, it puts so much shit in the air that it blocks out the sun. So then the vampires can all come out at 24 hours a day and start fucking shit up and take over the world.
But then they changed the vampire gimmick into it bites you, and then you're a vampire immediately, pretty much afterwards. I didn't like that because I thought that was kind of fucking stupid. It basically made them zombies.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, they don't have to like drain all your blood first and then turn you, or they don't fucking have to do that and that. Like it, I don't know.
Nobody's sparkling.
Yeah.
But there's a Marine character that's pretty interesting, at least for the first 3 episodes or so, because he has to guard, because there's a chick, her name's Vanessa, but they never make any connection whatsoever that like she's an heir to Van Helsing. The only thing that's special about her is that something in her blood causes vampires to reverse their vampirism, and then she's impervious to vampirism.
Okay.
She's not really a badass. She can't really fight. She's kind of...
Oh, she magically learns how to fight,
okay.
between 2 episodes.
All right.
Like, literally I think it's like episode 5 or 6, like, she barely fights off some vampires. And then, like, the next episode, like, she's, like, fucking twirling around, like, decapitating him and shit. And it's like, okay, no time has passed since the last episode, and magically she can fight now.
But yeah, this guy, he's like the last of his squad, and all he was told was to watch the girl and keep the doctor alive. And at some point, it was like years ago, the doctor, when they let people out, the doctor got bit by a vampire. She turned to a vampire, so he just has her locked up in a cage, and he has a IV line going to her, so she'd like drink his blood. So like he's not getting infected, but she gets sustenance to keep her alive because he was told to keep her alive, and that's what he did.
Following it to the letter of the law.
And then she becomes like literally the stupidest, most useless fucking character on that show from thenceforth.
That's that.
No, because
They
like
fucked up a lot of things,
she's
huh?
the reason he gets turned into a vampire, because like anytime she sees a vampire, she like totally like loses her shit and just like throws anybody that's in front of her into them, and like runs away and goes, "Oh my god, it's so horrible," and then lies about what happened. And then, but it's like I fucking hate her character so hard because her character is like nobody would be this goddamn selfish and dumb. like literally like.
But that's where the drama comes from.
I know, but like literally like she had to close like a radiation fucking door or whatever to keep what's his name alive. Like she literally could have kept it open for a second and then it would have closed, and the vampire that was chasing him would have been trapped behind it. They could have gotten out safely. Instead she like, oh no, then hits the button and seals him in and kills him. And because she can't wait an extra second, she panics and then she starts sobbing uncontrollably and runs away. It's like, God, this character sucks.
And that's season 1. There's a season 2.
Yeah, I know. I kind of want to see what happens in season 2, but at the same time,
I hear people say like that guy died. It was like, well, there's no reason to really watch the show then, isn't there? But I tell them like I've seen a preview for season 2 where the Marine guy is standing next to some chick loading a shotgun or holding a sword or some shit, which I think it's Vanessa, and he just has money taped all over his body, like stacks of it, because I think that's his body armor. He just had to improvise.
Oh, and in the episode where he dies, it's like the best improvised character they had on the show. It's like literally this guy from the Resistance that somehow wanders onto the army base they're in. And like he got separated from his Resistance group. But he's like the dumbest motherfucker I've ever seen. He's like basically how you would write a southern inbred hick. And so they're trying to get into this bunker because that's the only safe place they can think of to go in the military base because all the vampires are closing in around them. They're trying to get out. And so like, oh, we called this place the farm, and then they can't get it open because it's fucking dead bolted from the inside. And so the guy's like, here you go, and then he lights a stick of dynamite and puts it on the door handle, and then it doesn't go off, and then they're like, oh, okay. And then because they're trying to walk towards the door to grab the diamond off it and try again, and he's like, don't worry, I got backup. He throws a frag grenade at it, and then fucking the door blows off, and then it caves in the whole fucking thing with them inside it, so they're trapped inside there. He's like, I don't know why this is so bad. and then he proceeds to, like, there's, like, one, like, vampire with, like, no eyes and all this shit because the radiation's burned all the organs out of him and shit. And so, like, they're gonna leave because they finally found an emergency exit they couldn't find until now. And, like, for some reason, the guy gets it in and says, I gotta go kill that one vampire. And then, like, he just goes off and doesn't tell anybody anything, and then he gets killed by it and turned by it, and that's when that Marine gets killed. And it's like, I fucking love they did this with the character. I was like, why the fuck does this need to be in the show? And it's like,
It is based on a comic book, apparently. So.
Well, I know, but it's like that was probably the
I was kind of
most
informing
episode.
Nathan of that.
But sorry.
Okay. Anyway, we read a book.
Yeah, well, Andrew hasn't. But
Oh, Andrew hasn't?
no.
Has he read any of the...
He really likes the first season. Have you seen season 2 yet, or is it even available?
Of what?
I have The Expanse.
No, I can't watch it yet. No.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
They've even taken down season 1, so I can't watch season 1 again. So I don't know.
Don't worry. Well, the whatever we'd be spoiling, you won't even know about till like season 8 of The Expanse if they get there.
Yeah.
That's fine. You guys can talk about it. I've heard the other books before that, so it's not gonna.
What number? It's book
It's number
is
7.
7. Okay.
Yeah, because these are set up as the Expanse novels. I forget how the two writers explain. They're each set up as a trilogy. There's Discovery, and then there's kind of exploitation of the technology, and then the third trilogy is going to be the fallout of the technology, and then so there's 2 more books coming after this, and then that's it. They say,
All right.
for this story at least.
I like how immediately. Well, the thing I picked up out of this is like, oh, we're doing The Expanse, the undiscovered country.
Yeah. Everyone's old now.
They just jump 30 years in the future, which they don't tell you that till like later on. You just have to guess how far it's been. It's like, how fucking long has it been? Because they keep saying like, this is the Roci, it's the longest place I've ever lived anywhere. It's like, well, they're all like their mid to late 20s when these books started. Like, that means they had to live somewhere like at least 18 years. Like, how fucking long has it been?
Yeah, it's been 30 some years.
Even more, it could be.
Yeah.
Is the time jump of lazy a plot device in books as it is in movies?
No. I kind of see the time jump as after Nemesis Games and Babylon's Ashes, everything's kind of fucked up. It's really fucked up, but they kind of like get to a point where like they can rest. It's like, all right, everything's not so fucked up anymore. And so I kind of take it as 30 years after this event is like, hey, look, there hasn't been anything of note in 30 years. That's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a time of relative peace and expansion.
Because
now I just didn't know if they like wrote themselves into a corner and they're trying to get out cheaply.
No. It all like you kind of like guess like what are they doing with this, and like by the end of it, it completely makes sense. Not necessarily the time jump, but like it's like, why does this happen? That's also what I liked about this book is it made Babylon's Ashes seem more important.
Yeah.
Because I always said like that was just kind of the end. That was the end chapter of Nemesis Games rather than a book of itself. Because in Babylon's Ashes, it kind of seems like Marco's kind of a dumbass. It's like, why did all this happen? It's like, this seemed unnecessary, and why would anybody follow this dickhead? But then you see like, oh, that was all that all that had nothing to do with what the overall plot was going on. And they
Yeah.
and they hinted at that too, like, you know, because there was like, you know, they had to split up in the whole Free Navy stuff, where they kind of split into two and became like a pirate faction unto themselves. Who's the leader of that? I can't remember her name. She had like 2 wives and one of them died in a gun.
Yeah, I kind of, I wish there was kind of a reference in this because I was trying to remember all the stuff.
Because she's like the first president of the what do they call it?
The trade union or
Yeah,
the
the trade union. Michio Pa, is that her name?
yeah, that was it. I think yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so the crew, they're basically they work for the trade union as kind of independent contractors because they still have the their gunship, but by this point it's kind of outdated because it's like a fucking 40-year-old ship, and they're all in like they all have to be in their 60s at least.
Yeah.
But they talk about how everyone's been taking anti-aging drugs, so they're kind of like, rather than being 60 years old, they're kind of like a, this kind of hurts 40.
Yeah.
Because they can still like kick people's ass with relative ease, but then they talk about like, well, that didn't used to hurt that long. Like, but yeah, it starts off with oh man, I guess we have to explain things.
Well, it kind of explains where the
well, he doesn't know about the gates yet.
Oh,
yeah, just you don't have to explain things.
Okay.
Just talk about the book. Just talk what you liked about it. You know.
So there's this thing that they find. There's an alien artifact that happens into place. It's called the gates, and you can travel to 1,300 different worlds instantaneously. So, like in a book where it's like very hard, limited science fiction, like we're not breaking any laws. Here's the one thing that allows all these laws to be broken. So now suddenly they can travel to 1,300 different worlds. And so, where there used to be like Earth had everything, and then the Belters were just fucked by both Mars and Earth. But now you have like now you can go to other worlds. So now Mars is fucked because everybody was committed to terraforming Mars. And now everyone's like, well, we can just go to a new world. Now Mars is fucked. And their infrastructure is falling apart because all their brain just left. All their brain just went to go discover new world. So they go to this world where, and also there's a thing with the gates where if you send too many ships in at once, the gate will just eat a ship. It'll just disappear. So that's what this trade union does. It regulates the amount of ships that can go in at a certain time, so ships don't just disappear.
Sounds like a good idea.
And so there's one planet they hate centralized government, and so they just send a ship through like without telling anybody, and they're like, hey, fuck you, we're gonna cut you off from using the gates for 3 years. And then so Holden was supposed to tell them that in person. It's like, you're fucked for 3 years, and like they can't even like sustain their own food source in the planet they're at because the planet's too weird. So basically they're giving them a death sentence, but Holden just doesn't want to tell them they're giving a death sentence. So it's like, see your leader there, if he agrees to a trial, we'll forget this whole thing ever happened. He didn't have the authority to do that. That's why he felt like it was more of the right thing to do.
Yeah, instead of just going from 1 to 10.
And he kind of expected them to not turn on him, but like the next moment you see they hogtied the guy and like brought him to the ship. It's like, well, I guess we're doing this now. And then so as they're heading back to there's this thing, so you remember the Nauvoo?
Yeah.
The ship that they were trying to hit the station with that was infected.
Yeah.
To knock it out of the way, that the generation ship.
Yeah.
So in the next book, in Abaddon's Gate, they turn that thing because they just like hijack it from the Mormons. It's like is it the OPA, or are they considered something else with them?
It's kind of roughly the OPA at that point.
So the OPA, like they just hijack the ship. It's like it's ours now, and they just strap a bunch of fucking cannons to it and call it a battleship. And they call it the Behemoth.
It's the biggest battleship in the solar system, but it's also the worst because it can't really maneuver quickly. Doesn't have a lot of defensive capabilities, but it's just really big.
And it's the only ship with centrifugal gravity. Because there's the big drum that spins. So anyway, when Abaddon Gates happens, like a bunch of shit happens, and then that ends up becoming like the way station. When everybody comes in through the gates, they stop there, and then, so the Behemoth now becomes called Medina Station. So it just hangs out there. So it's basically Babylon 5 now. So they go back to Medina Station, and then they call them the Laconians, and I don't know if that's been mentioned in other books or if they just suddenly are.
No, well, that's where they went. They were it was 75% of the Martian Navy, and their intelligentsia just fled because they're the ones who gave the Free Navy all their ships, and they wanted to create chaos, and then they fled through a gate, and then they established that world as Laconia, which was Laconia? It was a prefect of the Spartan nation on Old Earth, and
so they come back.
Finally.
They also stole the proto molecule, so like they have it and they run away with it. So they come back, and they have almost unlimited technology. They have some weird magnetic weapon that can just evaporate any ship. And so they come back, they completely evaporate a ship. They have all these rail guns attached to the ring gate, and they all fire at it, and then they just fire at the thing, and they destroy all the guns all at the same time. And then everybody surrenders in that local area. And so basically you just have this unstoppable force. And then Earth, they're trying to, or the trade union really is, they're trying to put, because they basically kind of run everything, but they're not their own government.
They're kind of a quasi, they're like a free trade zone or something, but there's no real, like, there's not really like a massive space fleet anymore. It's just these guys could get the most ships into space, and they have weapons on them, but they're not like a there's very little chance they could defeat what was it called, the Gathering Storm, or
the Gathering Storm was the destroyer. You have the Tempest and the other one.
Yeah, the Tempest, I think, was the one that was.
They have two of them.
Yeah, because one was coming through and one was invading.
Yeah. Can't remember what they're called.
Yeah.
So like at the Medina Station, that's where you kind of have this resistance happen, because like the whole crew has basically just surrendered over to the Laconians have taken over the whole place. And all their ships and stuff they use the proto molecule to basically design some machine that would design ships. So like they didn't even like design the ships they have; they let the proto molecule design it for them. So they all talk about how like things are weirdly, how it's like it's symmetrical on the inside, but on the outside it's not. We don't know why it fucking did that. And like all their power armor and stuff that they wear, it's all high tech and more so.
Let's talk about their leader, Durati. He's been
Duarte?
Yeah, he's been they've injected the proto molecule into him to give him like a kind of an immortal existence.
Yeah.
Because he's the absolute dictator of all that. Their whole basis of government is this strongman theory, whereas this one guy, one vision.
Because he's like in the first chapter, and then they just never follow up with him ever again. He's just mentioned. Because he's like talking to the scientist guy who basically helped create like, his immortality drug or whatever. And then the guy's trying to convince him, like, why don't I get the mortality drug? He's like, no, we just only one person's immortal. That's how it works. But hey, keep giving me the argument.
Yeah, they're very bad people, and they're very manipulative people at their core. And now, yeah, well, they only use their magnetic wave weapon once, though,
No, they
because
use
it.
it
Or,
they use it several times, but
well, which time did? Well, then when they used it on the one station, it like shut down everyone's brain in the system.
yeah, that was the second time they used it. Yeah,
Okay.
They shoot the weapon, and then like there's kind of a break, and everybody wakes up and goes, "What happened?" And they realize like, "Oh, everyone's been asleep. Everyone in like the whole solar system just went asleep." And they're like, "Did that happen to them?" And they find out, yes, they went asleep too when they shot that thing off. And then there's a glowing orb on the ship, and they're like, "What the fuck's that?"
And then they capture Holden on the station because he was doing a diversionary attack for one of their sabotages. And then, yeah, he gets sent back to Laconia. And he's talking to Durat at the end. And he's like, yeah, I know what that node is. That's the thing that destroyed all the shit that made this stuff. We don't know anything about that node. But when it starts showing up, because that's the thing is these people still don't understand what they're messing with. Because 30 years later, like they can use the technology to achieve certain things, but then they always get some weird result. Because whatever created the protomolecule was killed by the node things, and nobody knows what those are or what they're, because he found all that out. And was it Cibola Burn when they were on the planet? And,
yeah, because there's like some weird ruins that he found, and then like there's like, and then like him and Miller, the Ghost Miller, go around and there's like the weird bug creatures that fight each other.
yeah,
because like the Miller there's like activating the signal, and like these like defensive mechanisms are popping up, and then it gives him a vision of like all the alien race that built the proto-molecule being destroyed.
yeah,
So like Holden's like trying to warn this guy. It's like, hey, you know these things that built all this awesome shit that breaks all the rules of physics? Something killed them, and we don't know fucking shit about them. And then he returns with like, this is like the amazing thing that they do this twice in this series. They did it with Marcos, where it's like he explains how like they fuck up Earth because you're basically, because of all these new worlds, you're basically causing the extinction of the Belters. And it's like, he's not wrong. His assessment is completely correct. Although it doesn't mean you get to be evil because you're correct in your assessment. So here's like Duarte. So the same thing happens with Duarte, where it's like he's totally evil, but his assessment on everything is 100% correct. So what he's saying is, so what Duarte says, like why he did all this stuff, why he's coming in, and why he's come back and fucking all of Earth up, is he wants to unite humanity because to fight this alien race that killed off this super alien race. We don't know about either of them. Like they don't even know how the ring gate works. They're just guessing. They've done stuff with it. So what he's suggesting that, so when they fire that magnetic weapon, and then not everybody didn't just immediately die. Yeah. And then Holden's like, how do you know these things won't try a different way to kill us? He's like, nah. But anyways, so his assessment is like, there's no way we don't use the gates. There's no way that we don't use this technology. So we're going to have to fight these things eventually. And I'm going to unite all of humanity together to do this. He's not wrong, but he's evil.
yeah. So that's it was a good book.
Yeah, it's another one of those sea change novels in the series.
Yeah, and in the series, it's had a lot of those changes.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this was they did a pretty good job here. I mean, I read this book in a week. I bought it a week ago, and I finished reading it 2 days ago. So, and it was 600 pages, so it wasn't a small book.
I thought, I did an audiobook. I think I got through it in like 5 days or something like that. So.
Yeah.
Although I fell asleep to some of the parts, so I'm a little hazy on some of the parts where they're fighting back against on Medina Station, but I think I mostly have it.
Ah, well,
I have the part where like Holden gets captured, but there's that hazy part between like when the one Belter guy sells them out, and then when they get on the Laconian ship and then steal it, there's some time in between there where I'm kind of hazy and some stuff.
Oh, so you missed the thing where Bobby and Amos beat the shit out of each other because he's
No, I got that one.
Yeah, because Clarissa finally died, which everyone was just waiting for.
Well, no, they fought before that happened, but
Oh, yeah. But yeah, that's a
yeah.
bunch of old people fighting. No, it's a good. We'll see where it goes. Well, because the next two are gonna. I mean, they're gonna do one. Because they do one of these every year.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's usually been the pattern.
I mean, it's a surprising amount of quality for how quickly they're putting this shit out.
And yeah, I like that the drummer she was the president of the trade union or whatever. It's like, oh, she was kind of a minor character behind. Because she was always what's the guy's name? The Anderson Station guy.
Oh fuck! God damn it!
Yeah, see, there's some of these people you got to remember.
The Butcher of Anderson Station.
Yeah, yeah.
God damn it! We know his nickname, but we forget his name.
He died in the last one. Anyway.
St. Johnson something?
Yeah, Fred Johnson.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, like she was his right hand man, and then sort of just disappeared. And I was like, oh, now she's president of the trade union. It's like, that's interesting.
I like some stuff with her where she has like this long dialogue, and it's like, is she saying this out loud? It's like, no, and then she goes on with the conciliatory speech.
Yeah. Eva Sorella was in this one again. She's like 100 years old now.
What's the other stuff? I really like because there's a lot of chapters that are because the chapter's always headed by like whoever character it's following around.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I have different main characters for the. It's like sometimes like a main character might not get their own chapter in a book. They'll follow but they'll be in the book still.
Yeah.
Like I don't think like Naomi, like she only had her own chapters in Nemesis games, I think.
Yeah.
But
she was separate from the rest of them. Yeah, she had her.
So in this one, Bobby, she has her own chapters. So like whenever the guy says the chapter, he just says their name. Whenever time he says Bobby, I can't not hear Hank Hill. Bobby.
For a second, it took me a second. Like Hank Hill.
So it's just like Bobby, and then like the ship interdicted the.
Quit get the propane and propane accepted.
Yeah, that was is a good book. I mean, I think they're going to return to form for these last three. At least I hope so.
Yeah, well, I'll be interested to see what they do because, like, yeah, they're going to get way out there. Because it's like every book, everything changes with like how the universe works and stuff like that. Like it's becoming different gradients of science fiction every time.
Yeah, this went from like kind of some. This is slowly becoming Alistair Reynolds, because Alistair Reynolds, everything's bound by physics until it isn't, and then once you cross that line, then like, oh, the terrible things are coming to destroy us, and it's like, yeah, whenever you go faster than light speed, something's gonna come kill you. But I think in this universe, it's because they're creating. I don't know. We don't. Cibola Burn, we find out about. There's a lot of information kind of glossed over about who the aliens were. We really don't know shit about them. I mean, nothing. No. Just their technology and their artifacts. But yeah, there are some things hinted. It's like once you get so far, you're unleashing forces that like there's other things that will come and stop you. But yeah, so it's went from that to almost space opera, but not quite, not yet.
Well, it still like focuses on the crew.
Yeah.
And how Holden has to put himself in the center of everything. I like that one. That's that one line in the book. It's like those. I think it's the drummer, one of the drummer chapters, and she goes, those universe's 3 magic words. Holden fucking McNeil.
Yeah, he's still the useful idiot. So, yeah, we'll see where this goes. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of sub books about what happened in the intervening 30 years. Something had to happen.
Yeah. Those short stories haven't really been that good.
Yeah, there's like $5 for a 90-page story that was like, okay, this is just a different point of view chapter that could have been put in one of the bigger books, but yeah. They give those away for free after a while, though. So
Now, I know they gave Drive away, but Drive's like 9 pages.
yeah.
I did start Praetor Moon.
Oh, did you? You're going to the beginning of the Praetor series with Neil.
That one you suggested to me that they don't have it on audio books, so I just went with the Star quality books or whatever.
Yeah, Praetor Moon explains who the Praetor are. It's a prequel novel, but yeah, you'll get it. You'll enjoy it.
I'm not that far in, but I like how it just immediately is like it talks about how it vaguely mentions how there's like a weird AI that kind of controls everything or is trying to help humanity. So basically, humans are kind of like choiceless or whatever because AI is going to be like, here's what the best things to do. It's like, all right. And so, but like they talk about how they've never seen any other life before, like in the universe. They've never found any until now. So they're really fucking excited. We're going to talk to somebody. And just immediately it just turns into a bloodbath.
Yeah,
this sucks.
Yeah, the Praetor are gross aliens, but they're essentially just giant crabs.
Yeah.
So imagine crabs with like super intelligence. And the Praetor are also in the later novels. It comes to some things play out that are kind of weird because the Praetor they hate artificial intelligence. They think it's an abomination, and it's never really explained why until. Actually, I think it's just a cultural thing with them. But yeah, they almost show the humans. It's like you're just involuntary slaves to these machines. They say they're being benevolent, but they're not. And so that's way down the line.
All right.
Because there are lots of aliens in that universe, but most of them are dead or in some kind of weird. Because again, it gets to the point where the technology becomes so advanced that you're like, oh, you're going to unwind the universe. And there's always a faction there that's trying to stop you. So, but in this book, it's pretty much a straightforward war. And in this book, it makes it clear why, because human beings have basically abandoned spaceships.
Oh, really?
And that's why the Praetor, yeah, because they have the Runcibles. It's just instantaneous Stargate travel from one planet to another. You don't need spaceships anymore, but the Praetor never developed. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of weird because the Runcibles were invented when a guy hooked his mind up to an AI and he lived for 32 seconds. But in that 32 seconds, he created most of the technology that exists in the Polity universe. And Runcibles are an invention of the human mind and an AI because AIs lack certain. They're not willing to make certain illogical leaps, even in science. So it takes a person to do it, but you can't. An AI mind and a human mind will die very quickly if they're linked. So this was the only guy that ever did it, but he created the Runcibles because they had spaceships and FTL. It was called underspace drives or U-space, but it was just like a. What did they describe it as? Like a short dimension where you can just travel from one point to another almost instantly.
Yeah.
But you have to, reemerge. That's why they call it underspace, because you have to reemerge in real space to get your bearings and then keep going. But Runcibles was almost point-to-point instantaneous travel. That's way more efficient than spaceships. But then you have weird things like when Runcibles use huge amounts of energy, and when they're trying to terraform like ice planets and shit, it's like, oh, we'll just take the heat sinks and the particle sinks from the Runcible and just put them in the atmosphere of the planet, so they'll discharge. It'll heat up the planet super fast, and because usually they discharge them into suns or black holes, or because once they found and the Runcible gateways don't connect. I think they only connect to one point to another. There's like a safety feature, so it's not like a wide open network. because one time they found aliens. This was after the Praetor, and they came through the Runcible Gate. And how long did they last? Like 52 minutes. But the stuff they told the AI on the planet were so terrifying that they moved that Runcible Gate into a sun. So if anything else tried to come through that Runcible Gate, it would go into a sun. There's all kinds of weird shit like that. I mean, there's like, I forget how many books this guy's written, like 32 books, or there's a lot of them. So, but yeah, it's there's some, I might be remembering some of that wrong, but I know there was some interesting stuff in there. But it turns out the things that scared them that they thought were aliens were actually an AI made a Runcible Gate that could travel through time. So those people were 52 years in the future, and they were trying to warn people, but they looked so bizarre that they thought they were aliens. But that's a whole nother story. That's when you find out about Jane technology and stuff, which that's one of the dead races. They invented a technology that's like a virus, and it just destroys civilizations. But the technology is so powerful, people are like, I can control this. It's like, oh, you mean like all the other dead civilizations? Okay. Well, and there's people that try. They usually end up getting thrown into black holes or suns, though. There's always things dying like that.
So yeah, you got some reading to do.
Yeah, I got a lot of reading ahead, a lot of Neil Asher books to read.
Well, if my work was as slow as it was this week, I had plenty of time to read, but I don't think that's going to be good.
Or do books on tape. That's the only way I fly nowadays.
I've got about 2 more hours of Artemis left, so
Oh, okay.
it's been delayed by other things.
Did you ever get through Seven Eves?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Did we ever talk about? No, we never
No.
talked about.
Because, like I said, we had football break, and then we came back, and
I'll have to like re-listen to that book. We need to talk about that.
yeah, I'll need to re-listen to it too because it's been months.
I really like Seven Eves. Oh yeah, your best of. You want to shoot us your best of, Andrew?
Best movie of the year, Thor Ragnarok.
Okay.
Just because
Acceptable.
I like the plot a lot. Really great comedic writing and good writing overall, as far as like an actual good villain again, good intermesh between the characters, and just actually good story for an MCU. It's actually my favorite Marvel movie so far.
Yeah.
Best TV show of the year. Oh God.
Me and Conlon never got to this, so we could all say something here.
Twin Peaks.
Trying to think of something I've seen that's actually.
Although BoJack Horseman was also really good this year.
And very similar in some ways.
Yeah, because I think last year, even though Westworld came out, I was like, no, BoJack, BoJack wins. But this year, I such a love affair with Twin Peaks that I
Yeah,
couldn't
Twin
give-
Peaks. I'd have to say that would be the TV series show.
It intrigued me. I just loved it. It was weird, and yeah, it was just.
It was challenging. It was not always fun to watch.
Yes.
Especially that one we watched in Iowa. I was like, yeah, this makes sense.
What does this have to do with Twin Peaks? Who cares?
It was visually cool.
Yeah. I was waiting for somebody to do something with digital black and white, and it was David Lynch. Did we jog your memory?
No, I'd say it's like the new season of Stranger Things was my favorite TV show.
Yeah,
of the year.
okay.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, it's just probably I was trying to boil it down to something that was actually somewhat recent and I'd actually seen. So
Yeah, like
unfortunately between Netflix and Hulu, there's only so much. It was between that and Future Man. I mean, Future Man was really fucking good too.
yeah, it's totally ridiculous.
I mean, there's a lot of good things to pick. Like, I mean, movies. I mean, it was between Stephen King's new It movie, Thor Ragnarok, and oh god, probably the Amazing Spider-Man movie. Just because I liked the Vulture in that movie. It was actually another good standout villain for Marvel. One that wasn't just hey, look, I'm a bad guy. And, like,
Yeah, well, especially how. Well, I'm not sure how like characters in the comic book, but it's kind of portrayed in the comic book. It's a really goofy character, and here it's like the most sensible villain in the entire universe. It's like, hey, you took money from me. I'm smart. Fuck you.
I'm not just gonna take my ball and go home. Yes.
and then, I mean, otherwise, I mean, best album of the year for me so far has just been the new Queens of Stone Age album.
Yeah, I still need to listen to that.
Yeah, it's definitely. I don't think I'll ever stop hating that band. They just do good work time and time again. I'm pretty sure. Like, I shouldn't say that because then like their next album, like I really like this album, but no, that's.
They're gonna go all Radiohead on you. It's like, here's our next album. Nobody gets it, man. Yeah, because it sucks.
Yeah, I went really boring this year. I just gave it to the Add Violence EP from Nine Inch Nails. I just listened to that so many times. It's like, why do I not just give it to that album?
Well, anything that spurs you to be either feel good, be more creative, or just want to listen to more music, then why not?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
my runners up are like I really like that Arcade Fire album.
Yeah, and I still haven't got a chance to listen to that one either.
But there's like I only remember like 3 songs from it, so I'm not really sure like how well the whole album holds up. But I remember it being pretty good. They don't really make bad albums. So
I say my run up would probably be the new Portugal the Man album that came out.
Portugal Demand?
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever heard them before.
Oh, they
Purple,
Modern
Yellow,
Jesus is a good one, and
Purple, Yellow, Red, and Blue is like one of my favorite songs from them. Because like the lyrics of the song is like, I just want to be evil. Like, it's like my favorite color: purple, yellow, red, and blue. It's like I just really like bands with odd lyrics and lyrics that actually strike me. They're not just fucking just like, I love a girl and she doesn't love me back. Bullshit. But anyway.
Quick digress. I guess I ended up listening to Seether the other day, and I'm like, Seether is kind of the example of the modern rock band and why they suck. Like, they just have nothing to say, and it's all like going through the motions. But they did something kind of really stupid and quasi-interesting. The band Seether did a cover of the song Seether by Veruca Salt.
Okay, I didn't know there was a song Seether.
Yeah.
Fight the sea there, or something like that.
Yeah, can't fight the Seether.
Oh,
Can't
okay.
fight the sea.
I vaguely remember that song. I can't say I was a fan of it before, but
I really that Veruca Salt had a moment where their stuff was like pretty good. Then I listened to like their modern stuff, and it's like, oh, I guess they have nothing to say anymore.
Yeah, that talent train's pulled out of the port or the station or whatever.
Anyways, what were you gonna say?
oh no, I was just gonna move on to next category basically because I mean
I guess yeah, we gotta give you well, we gave you choices. Oh, I was gonna say Lady Dynamite was also a runner-up for TV of the year. I really like that one.
yeah, I still haven't watched that show either, so it's.
It might not be your thing, so. But
No,
I made you watch that
comedy
comedy
special after watching it. I don't know if it'll be something I just binge watch or whatever, but I probably should have chose that over Van Helsing. But at the same time,
you know what? We talked a lot about Van Helsing, despite not liking it.
it just leaves that just leaves that bad taste in your psyche and mouth.
I kind of felt I feel like that's one of those shows you watch because you feel like I can make a show. Just give me the money.
Like,
how did this get made?
But as far as anything else goes, as far as categories like best video game, so far I've played so few this year. It'd probably be Conlon's pick with Windwalker.
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild. Sorry, Windwalker is one of the ones.
Wind Waker.
Yeah, Wind Waker. Yeah. Sorry, Breath of the Wild would probably be it because I haven't played enough of Tiny Wars because that'll probably consume all my time now. But at the same time, I just started getting into Super Mario Odyssey. Mario Kart's just Mario Kart. XCOM's XCOM 2, and that's been out for like a year and a half or 2 years now. That's not really current, so. And I stopped playing that like a couple months ago because I haven't really gotten back into it. It's still a good game, but yeah.
I need to gift you a copy of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
For Steam.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we can like play together. And I'd be like, "What the fuck, Andrew?" They'd be like, "What the fuck?" And then we could argue. But then you.
You're what the fuck against me will probably just be because I lag out all the fucking time.
Oh yeah, your internet connection's not great. Yeah.
Well, it
can
the
be
weird
good.
part. It can be sometimes, and then it just gets shitty for like a minute or two, and then it goes back to being okay. So
I still need to get you a
weird-
Christmas gift, so I don't know. Something might show up in your Steam box at some point.
Okay. Well, remind me to proactively get you a Christmas gift when I can afford to. Instead of making
you got me some nice treats.
Yes, we did. I didn't make you a nice treat, but that's not really acceptable. I would think. I don't know.
I guess you'll have to explain what that is, rather than like assuming it's like we got him a pot brownie.
No, tiger butter, just melted chocolate, and then you melt white chocolate and peanut butter together, pour it over, fork swirl it together, and then cool it, and then turn it into bars. So
That sounds cool.
yeah, it's just like a Reese's peanut butter cup on crack. Except it's really cheap to make because all you have to do is get a bag of white chocolate chips, a bag of milk chocolate chips, and then the peanut butter you have at home, preferably smooth. Because I don't think chunky would work for everywhere. You'd have an odd peanut here and there in it. I mean, maybe you can make it work. It actually might do something different to the bars.
Yeah.
But I think you'd have to give a disclaimer to the person eating it so they wouldn't chomp into it and like, oh, why is there a peanut in here? But
what would you like? What have you liked so far about Breath of the Wild?
I don't know, I just like getting into it as far as like I just find myself just exploring things all the time and trying to dive into everything I can and trying to like find new cooking recipes and
I like how natural everything is in there because it doesn't show you. Like if you play an Assassin's Creed game, you can see like the 5,000 icons on the map of like here's a side mission you can do, but in Zelda, it just happens organically, and you can like put pins on the map, but they're your pins.
yeah.
Like all right, I want to go here. You don't know what the fuck's there, but usually like everywhere you go, there's a sight line, and you can kind of see something in the distance, and it's just like what's over there, and there's always something there when you go there.
Yeah, recently in the last couple of days I've been running into the problem where like I'll find somebody on the side of the road and like half the time it's a quest, the other half the time it's somebody trying to kill me. So it's like that's always a nice dynamic. So it's like, well, I haven't really encountered this a hell of a lot because it kind of reminds me of like Skyrim in a lot of ways too. I mean, there's not as many dungeons to go into at the moment. I mean, there are temples like puzzles and stuff. But that kind of is a nice breakup between like the combat and trying to survive.
Yeah.
Because I find myself fast traveling if I don't have enough like hand weapons on hand because you can't really buy anything, and I'm not at a point where you can get them fixed or.
Yeah, it's
really,
kind of a weird thing.
Really find them readily, so unless I find like a big stash of enemies I run into that actually have decent weapons, I usually try and avoid combat because they just tend to break faster than I can replace them.
Your weapons break in the game, so you'll have like 5 on hand, and you just like try to beat somebody to death, and you break like 3 weapons.
Well,
like, I'm fucked.
Well, because that's the thing. I found like a lot of those like little seedling creatures right off the bat.
Yeah.
And so I upgraded my melee thing twice, my melee weapons twice, and my shields and bows once. But then I can't find that guy again because I found like 3 more seeds, and I'm like, okay, I want to upgrade more of my slots. And the same thing with like I found the fairy god temple right off the bat, and I upgraded some of my clothing. And like I started trying to get as many shrines as possible so I can start upgrading my health bar and my stamina bar.
Yeah.
But I've only done 1 of each. And so I'm like, I need more hearts because every time I run into one of those fucking sentinel things, I can never get away from it, and it fucking blasts me and kills me. And every time, like, I had, like, literally maybe spent, like, an hour, like, cutting as much grass down as I can. I found 3 fairies. And then as soon as I found them, like, I ran into a sentinel. It killed me once with a beam, and then set the grass on fire, another beam, and killed me again. And so it's like, I don't have any fairies again anymore. I'm fucked. Like, if I die, I'm just fucked.
Here's a helpful tip. I don't know if you'll come across it, but there is a very steep mountain that it seems like if you climb it just smart enough or have just enough stamina, you might just make it. You'll never make it.
Oh, because the mountain never ends, or you just climb the top?
So there's that. Have you ever climbed when it's raining yet?
Yeah.
You slip. So there's a mountain where it never stops raining.
Oh, so you can't.
So sometimes you could wait out the rain and like, I'll climb this, but that it never stops raining there.
No, because I've run into stuff where I've climbed it or whatever. I found like a little. I don't know if it's like actually built into the game or it's kind of a way to cheat the system, but if you climb diagonally, the stamina meter goes down a lot slower.
Yeah.
So you seem to climb more, but you need the space to climb diagonally. But like otherwise, like it taken to try and every time I find a cooking pot, if I have some stamina stuff, I kind of throw it in and make stamina potions or stamina meat and stuff out of it. But I'm trying to figure out the one that King's recipe or whatever that was in that hut in the beginning area where it's like spicy peppers and then meat and then something else combines to make a really good like cold remedy or whatever.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because I was like, there's not really like people might tell you like what might go good together, but there's no actual like hard recipes anywhere. So I find like trial and error seems to work.
Yeah, you can find some databases online. They'll tell you what to put together if you're looking for stuff.
Yeah, I've more or less used the wikis for some of the shrine puzzles because like the one where it's like a giant fucking labyrinth puzzle with a ball where you have to move around and then fling onto the platform and make it go, and it's like I just looked at IGN's like immediately turned upside down so the whole thing's flat and then do it. I'm like, this made it so much easier. Like,
I'll be right back. Hold on.
Okay. But, best book of the year for me was probably Evicted. It was a very fucking depressing book.
What's that?
It's a book. This guy did a study of the Milwaukee, basically like people that live on paycheck to paycheck, and also a couple landlords for like a couple years in like the early 2000s or mid 2000s for the housing crisis. And so it's basically just like you start like in the beginning of the book, you sympathize with both people, the landlord and the tenants, because you hear the landlord just do nothing but bitch about like this group of like 20 people live in a 3-bedroom apartment, and all they're doing is pouring everything they have down every drain available, so it's always clogging and always ruining everything. And so they're like, how are we going to make any money? Because we're just fucking constantly throwing all this money into this one apartment because they're too fucking dumb not to put like a bunch of hair and grease down the toilet. Like, this doesn't make... Sorry, Nathan, you missed. I'm explaining my book of the year, which is Evicted, which is a case study book about the housing market for poor people in Milwaukee, in Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
Landlords in the early 2000s, because he was trying to figure out, how big a barrier people really face getting affordable housing and living on a budget and getting out of poverty. And so I was telling him, like, you sympathize with both people right off the bat, the people that are poor and the victims of this story, and then the landlords that are making all the money off the poor people. Because the landlord's motto in that book, the couple they follow, this black woman and black man that are a married couple, they own a bunch of property in the area. Most of it's either townhouses or singular houses, but they're pretty much all run-down pieces of shit, which they charge anywhere from $600 to $700 a month for. And their motto is, if it's not there to begin with when a tenant moves out or when they buy it, it's never going to exist in that apartment. So if there wasn't a fridge when they bought that apartment or somebody moved in, guess what? Unless you buy a fridge, they're not going to provide you a fridge. Same thing with the stove. Same thing with like if there's a toilet or not. Like that's your fucking deal. Like it's just that's the way they rent it, and they find there's no problem filling vacancies. As soon as they kick somebody out for not paying rent or for destroying stuff or whatever, they get somebody right away. But their main problem is they can't find anybody that actually wants to pay rent because they're always behind or they always need an extra, month or whatever to get the shit together. But that's not their problem. They'll just kick them out and automatically write the loss off.
Huh.
And so, but then it interweaves between 5 different families of varying difficulties. One's a single mom. Their kid has a breathing problem, so he has a breathing apparatus and machine at home. Otherwise, like, the kids are at home when, she's at work all the time or they're at school, like, and they basically don't have anything. They're way behind on rent. The best house they ever lived in, and she, like, wells up in tears when she talks about it, was this condemned house with no running water and no electricity, no heat, where just everything was boarded up. But it was nice because it was a house of her own, and it had furniture in it. It didn't matter, it didn't have running water because there was a well out back, so she just go get water and then bring it in and like heat it up on a hot plate, like a gas burner hot plate or whatever. That's how they take baths, and that was the best place she ever lived.
God,
It was
this sounds uplifting.
Yeah,
This
no,
is
I was
heaven.
telling Colin,
It's
it's a
my
very
own
depressing
heaven.
read. It's very enlightening and very saddening, and you feel really bad for these people, but at the same time, like the most depressing thing, I think I only have like literally the last chapter left because I had stopped reading it because I got so depressed from the last thing in it. Literally one of their townhouses burnt down because there was 2 right next to each other, And the bottom floor was this like blind old man that was like trying to shelter a couple boys in the neighborhood he knew, so he always like had them over and had food for them and stuff like that. He kind of made it a kind of a gathering area so kids wouldn't get into gangs and drugs and shit. And so he was on the bottom floor, and on the top floor was this woman and her husband with their 3 kids, one of which was a newborn. And so that townhouse burnt down. And at the time, the landlords were at a local casino having a good time talking about the new gold chains and shit they just bought and the vacations they're going to take with all the new fucking money they're making because they just bought this new house that's going to be a big money maker for them and all this blah, blah, blah bullshit.
Yeah.
So they get the call from the fire department, hey, you better get over here quick, you know, your property's on fire. They're like, oh shit. And so they cut from the casino and then they're at the property. And all you see from the writer's perspective is that the family with the kids is outside, and one of them has a half-burnt dead baby in their arms, and the rest of their kids are sitting there on the ground sobbing along with the rest of the family, just crying their eyes out, and the firemen are putting the fire out behind them. And then the old man's covered in smoke with huddled in a blanket, you know, thankful to be alive. And their first question when they roll up to the scene is, can we still get our last month's rent out of that? Because, you know, it's 10 days after the first of the month, that legally we can collect rent. And then the fire marshal's like, yes, you can get rent from them. And then it was like, then the second question was, or a second question to themselves was like, oh, I wonder if it's a total loss or not. Not if the family was okay, not if everybody got out okay, you know,
Is
or
the fire insurance gonna kick in?
like, they was just basically like, God, I hope our property and our investment's safe. It's not anything to do about the people are like the most disposable part of that equation. It was just like, God, I just want to reach through the pages right now and fucking kick that bitch in the fucking teeth. Because she deserves every inch of that fucking punishment. And it's like, you can't, like every time, like beginning of the book, like I said, you feel bad for her character and her husband because it seems like, yeah, they're getting screwed all the time. They never collect their rent. They're always like this close to themselves, like not being able to pay bills because they have to deal with such bullshit all the time. But then you hear about like there's this one woman in one of her other apartments that literally her boyfriend just keeps coming back and beating the shit out of her over and over again. And so the cops are tired of this, and so they tell her, it's like, okay, either you kick her out or you tell her to get a gun and kill him, and then we'll come arrest her. It's like how is it's like this has no sympathy whatsoever for the woman that's getting beat the shit out of on a regular basis. It's like, because they don't care about jailing him. They're just like, we just need to solve this problem, get her out of this apartment because we need to stop the police from coming here altogether and wasting our time. So either you get her to commit murder so we can send her to jail, or you kick her out. It is like, what the fuck? And like literally like the best living situation, it seemed like the one mother was talking about, like the best living situation she ever had was that condemned house. She's basically, since she fell 2 months behind, she's gonna get kicked out, and so they're giving a tour to the new prospective renter. But she has like severe mental issues where she like fucking eats everything in sight, and like anytime you tell her what to do, like she gets like insane and starts throwing shit and like trying to beat the shit out of you and everything. And like so she just stays at home all day and watches Jerry Springer on her couch that she brought in. But it's like she's forced to live with her because she agrees, like, okay, I'll buy you food, and, you know, I'll watch the kids, and, you know, I'll pay half the rent, you know, if we all live together. And the landlord's like, fine, what the fuck ever, as long as I get my money. And then it's like, that's their best living situation, is that her kids can't eat anything, because then the crazy person will try and beat the shit out of them for eating her food. And then also she'll, like, sporadically, like, start locking them out of the apartment and shit, because she forgets that she agreed to let them live with her and shit. And it's like, and the mom can't do anything because like the housing list for affordable income housing is like 3 years long. And the only place she can afford to and move to, somebody will let her move to, is like literally a crack den run by a gang. And she was like, I can't come home. They're going to recruit my kids to sell crack on the corner and they're probably going to die or get addicted to crack. And she's like, I don't see another option. I guess I have to stay here. And it's like, Jesus fucking Christ. It's like, this is fucking depressing as shit. And
Yeah,
like,
it sounds like Baltimore.
Yeah. But it just really, I don't know, it's very eye-opening to, like, obviously feeling way better about any living situation you're in. but also seeing the things that are really wrong with this country and how everybody deserves to, have a nice, at least some type of nice home to go home to, no matter what kind of money you make, because nobody should have to live like that. So it's just, yeah. But yeah, best book of the year.
My favorite book of the year. I went with Artemis and was your Infinity Engine or Infinity?
Yeah, well, I just called it the year of Neil Asher because
okay.
I read all the Neil Asher books this year, so I can't pick one. That's they're all good in their own way.
I mean, technically, my runner-up would just be Ender's Game because I read that again. That's such an old book. I think that's like what 1980 or 1979.
I don't know. I think that's
Mid
80s.
80s.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not that it still doesn't hold up. It's still a really good book. I can't believe that. I mean, considering how much nothing he's put out since then. Like
Oh, he's put out a lot of stuff, but it's terrible.
No, I know. I'm just saying. It's like
Yeah.
how the hell he turned out that book, but then nothing else after that.
Why are what's the follow-up? Eaters of the Dead? Or
The Xenocide, Eaters of the Dead,
I
or
hear
Speaker for the Dead.
Speakers for the Dead. I heard that's like in some ways better than Ender's Game, but I've never read it.
Yeah, I don't.
And I hear Ender's Shadow is enjoyable.
Yeah, I've heard that about that too, but that's basically like rehashing the story through Bean's eyes.
Yeah.
Which isn't bad. Bean's a good character in that novel. So.
Well, yeah, they go into like depth. Like I guess he's like a genetic experiment that the government made. So he doesn't have parents. He was just grown to be because they're trying to. It's like, hey, let's see if we can make this great general or whatever.
Nothing.
Yeah.
No, that would be interesting and kind of fit into the whole, like, everybody doesn't know if Ender's an experiment or what the hell he is, because he's a third and all this other stuff, so it's kind of a similar story arc, but different. And also, obviously, he's, like, the rut and the picked on one, so it... But no, other than that, I mean, as far as best of the year, I think that's... I don't think there's any other things I can think of.
No, that's mostly all the entertainment stuff. We just forgot about TV last time.
I mean, I don't really keep current enough on comic books besides trades.
Oh yeah, I guess.
I mean,
yeah.
comic books for me, like the best comic book I enjoy reading all the time now is either Saga or son of a bitch. It's one that's a newer one. It's one of the independent companies. It's basically like a sci-fi space western. I can't think of the damn name right now.
No.
It's an interesting book and it has some interesting ideas to go with it.
I'm in that really casual moment right now where it's like the only time I know something's a comic book is when it gets turned into a movie or a show.
Oh, that's right. It's called Copperhead.
Copperhead. Huh.
It's just or something that has like some pretty decent ideas. It actually has some good writing to it and stuff too. It doesn't have more than like 13 issues right now because it takes them forever to churn out anything. But at the same time, it's still a good book. But other than that, yeah.
What's your favorite anime of the year?
Probably the only
Attack
one.
on Titan was pretty good.
I haven't seen any of the new season yet. I mean, I would say that'd probably be it if I actually had watched some of it. But other than that, the original.
That one that's basically X-Men but with Russians.
Yeah, like a giant bear man and whatever the fuck else is going on there. Like I keep forgetting about that.
I know they did. They did a re-release of Stalker this year, didn't they?
I think so.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me look because there was an interesting. There was a Russian Apollo 13 type movie. Had really high production values, and it was set in.
Was it just called the Russian space program?
The Russian Apollo 13.
It was called Soyuz
Okay.
because it was. They had an interesting trailer.
Soyuz 375. There's so many of them.
No, I'm sorry. It was called Salyut 7.
Okay.
It was the space station before Mir, and it was set in the 80s, 85.
Huh.
What was famous about it? The computer shut down and it was basically drifting. And I think they had to dock with it at a higher speed than had ever been docked by any humans ever in space.
Huh.
And they found all kinds of things wrong with it. But I haven't been able to actually see it. But the movie looked the trailer looked interesting.
I remember I saw some of that. What was that big Russian, the town name where the Russians fought the Germans? Like almost like 1 million people died.
Oh, Sevastopol
No,
or Stalingrad?
Stalingrad. They did a Stalingrad movie. I'm not sure how the story works, but there's a lot of like cool looking things in that movie. It's like pretty well done, but I didn't get through the whole thing. But it's pretty well done for what it was. I don't know if it's accurate at all or if it's just some jingoistic nonsense, but it's pretty well. It looks good.
Yeah. I haven't seen that one. I mean, anything about, oh, yeah, Stalingrad's going to be pretty grim. There's the trailer for that Russian movie.
Okay. I'll click it later.
Yeah, click it later.
Lest YouTube put us under some weird rights thing.
Yeah. We acknowledge the existence of media, digital and otherwise. Do not play said media. I don't know. There's all kinds of weird. What was I listening to a podcast about? Like the weird cartoons that people were putting on YouTube that kids were watching, and there was really strange stuff going on in them. What was it called? Elsa Gate or something?
No idea.
Yeah, it was something weird. People were doing. It was basically a way to get advertising by saying, because it was like in YouTube Kids, but it was a bunch of characters doing bad stuff. And I don't know.
It wasn't that anime where like people turned into like weapons or like sex objects, is it?
No. This was something that was. These were badly produced like cartoons that basically were getting kids to. It looked like one of the Minions, but they were pissing in somebody's drink water. Or they had like a Spider-Man character and the character lady from Frozen, and they were drinking tequila. And then it fast forwarded 8 months to where she's having Spider-Man's baby. And it's like, what the fuck is this weird shit? It looks like something that comes from, some balkanized country.
Me and Andrew saw Happy.
Oh yeah, what'd you think of that?
That's pretty good.
Tell me about it.
Do you know what it is, or have you seen the trailer?
Yeah, it's the one. It's like the one actor, and then Patton Oswalt's this girl's imaginary friend.
Yeah.
And
something forget his name. Christopher Maloney. That's his name, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Why don't you just give me ass cancer?
Did you ever read the comic? Because I didn't know it was a comic.
I didn't know it was a comic either.
Yeah.
Well, it's shit. The guy who wrote it's like pretty famous. Like I hear his name a lot. Can you look that up, Nathan?
Let's see.
Oh, I guess I got a phone here.
Right here. Still following up on our Russian entertainment.
Well, I know like the guy that does the series is the guy who did like Crank and stuff like that. But
yeah, one half of the team because the other half went fucking crazy. But I guess he was the good half then.
Grant Morrison?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
I don't know what else he's done, but I've heard his name a lot. Are you looking at his wiki page?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a bunch of writing credits.
Any of them you recognize?
No, not really.
Okay.
Let's see. What did I want to take? Oh, as far as best of this year, I don't have anything else for that, but I read a pretty in-depth article about the Lord of the Rings TV series that Amazon's going to make.
Okay.
Yeah, because they announced it in like November.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, what? Didn't they make the movies or whatever? And no one knows exactly what they're going to do. I mean, they're probably going to just retell the Fellowship and the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but with probably more in depth. I'm not sure what they're going to do.
Okay.
Sounds like it doesn't need to
Well, here's the thing. The what I found fascinating was how much money they spent. It cost $250 million to buy the rights to Lord of the Rings.
Jesus Christ.
And then they've committed another $300 million to the TV show. So we're $500 million in. And but this, it's Amazon, though. They don't care.
Are they just assuming by the time they get it produced and put on the air, the Game of Thrones will be just ending, so they'll have all that audience to look forward to Lord of the Rings being on?
Well, that's the thing, is they pitched this to HBO first, and HBO passed because whatever company was talking about doing this, because HBO was like, well, we already have an epic fantasy thing going on here. We don't need to add, we don't need to add another super expensive epic fantasy show to shoot. But when I heard those numbers, because Amazon jumped right on it, and they basically said, yeah, whatever price, whatever you want, we'll pay it.
There must be some analytics they're looking at. It's like, this all makes sense in the end.
Yeah,
That or Jeff Bezos really likes Lord of the Rings.
That's all Amazon was for, so he can make Lord of the Rings.
Unless you're gonna make some subplot story, but even then, that thing's been beat to death so fucking much. I don't know why the hell.
Well, that's what's so fascinating to me about this article, because this article was just about the nuts and bolts finances. We're not even talking cast, production costs. We're at $250 million just buying the rights, just the rights to make anything with that name, with Tolkien's work on it. And then we're like I said, we're $500 million with the estimated cost to producing this show for however, because it's horribly expensive. I mean, it's just, and they're like, yeah, we're all in, we're balls deep. But to Amazon, that doesn't matter.
I mean, how much did Disney buy Marvel for? Like $6 billion?
Not sure. It was a lot.
And they're about to buy Fox for like,
and what did they buy? What did they buy Star Wars for? What did they buy Lucasfilm for?
I think it was like $6 or $8 billion or something.
Yeah, it was a lot of money. I mean, these are monstrous amounts of money being thrown around. I mean, Westworld alone, HBO, which is like, that's like their second biggest show when it's out. It's like, yeah, we're looking.
Oh, fuck, we thought we threw this money in a hole. Turns out everyone loved it.
First season was $180 million.
Yeah.
Second season, they're looking at $250 million. Just like, yeah, these are, and Netflix has a few that are starting to knock on that door too, and they're just projecting it right now. But,
I mean, there has to be like some justification for that kind of money. There must be making tons of money, or at least keeping
off tons of money on their taxes.
Or it must be getting new viewers at least, or keeping the viewers they have aboard.
I'm not sure when I hear
that kind of money.
Well, yeah, when I hear this,
I mean, when you think about it, like they spend like $250 million to make like a Star Wars movie, and that's like 2.5 hours of entertainment. It's like they're spending $250 million to put out 100 or 13 hours of entertainment. It's like,
yeah, it's
technically it's a better average, but it still doesn't sound good.
But
well,
like, but we don't get like numbers like we do with movies. Like we know at the box office, we have no idea. We can guess like, oh, that got good ratings, but what does that convert to? Like, how many people bought these shows online? How many subscriptions did this add? Like, we never see any of that shit.
Well, unless Amazon makes their video service now an extra feature to add to Prime for more money, I don't see how they're gonna make any fucking money on this. Because they're not selling it. They're gonna make it free with like all the other TV shows with Prime, and Prime already loses money just based on the free shipping. So how the fuck are they thinking they're gonna make their money on the back end on this?
I don't know. I don't know what their business. I mean, and the thing is, companies making huge investments like this when they just slam the door on net neutrality is like, because all those streaming services could just die.
Yeah.
If you let the people that, I mean, that's if those companies that run the pipeline still exist. I mean, that they could piss everyone off and just vaporize too. You never know where that's going to go.
Well, huge news in the last week since, Trump announced his, the tax plan passed and signed and all this other bullshit. AT&T fired 1,500 people the other day because they're trying to get out of on-demand and all this other service and go heavily into creating their own streaming service.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause,
Another one.
Yeah, because net neutrality, is dead and gone. So they're a provider and somebody that provides a streaming service. So bonus. So I wonder who's going to be faster on that.
Well, doesn't fucking is it Time Warner who owns DirecTV?
Yeah, I think
And they
so.
also own like NBC.
Yeah,
Because there's like been
NBC,
weird
Sci-Fi,
shit like that
yeah,
too.
USA,
Yeah.
Cartoon Network, or CNN.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you guys know this. Fucking Mr. Robot's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still haven't watched past the 4th episode of the first season, but yeah.
Oh god damn you!
I own the first season. I just haven't watched more than the fourth episode. Sorry.
I've been really. I just watched the second season like a couple months ago. I finally finished it up. I was like, boy, that was really good. And then the third season came out, and I've been slow to it too because I've been watching it on the on-demand stuff. But they had one episode I didn't like. It was because I was watching it on demand. I wasn't really getting commercials or whatever, but like I got one that says like, and this, or I saw a preview for it, is like in the next special episode of Mr. Robot shown commercial free. It's like, I wonder why they're doing that. And I watched the episode and it was like, I don't know what. I was like, do they have something special to say? It's like, no, not really. I mean, but yeah, it's still really cool. I mean, they always have something to say about corporations and greed and stuff. But it's like, why was that presented commercial free? He's like, oh, the whole episode was done in one shot. Okay, got it. I mean, they faked some of it, but it was still like oh shit, I didn't realize like. Because then, like, it was like, this episode has a really good flow to it. It's like, oh, that's why, because it never fucking cuts.
It's Russian arc. For me.
Did you ever get the second season of Mr. Robot?
No, not unless that's really sporadic on my on-demand.
Okay.
Or they show it without fast forward, which I'm,
Yeah.
my attention span. It's like, what was I watching? Corporate greed. Oh yeah, and a Tide commercial. Great, thanks.
There's just there's an episode. I don't know if I should spoil it. Or
Isn't there a musical episode or something where they're all singing a song?
I guess I'll kind of spoil. Okay, so at one point there's an episode where it becomes 4x3, like old school, like where it's a square box, and it becomes like basically like a '90s sitcom. With a sound with a laugh track and everything, as they're like throwing a body in a trunk and the people are laughing. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Oh, I can watch season 2 on Prime now. Okay, I'll have to wedge that in with BoJack Horseman and Breaking Bad because I have a whole week off. So yeah, I'll be ready for Suicide come Friday. Oh, the existential meaninglessness of my existence. I'll just be like Mark Maron all the time. What does it all mean?
Did you listen to the episode you did with James Franco?
Yes.
Did I already talk about that? I think.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Yeah, like James Franco's kind of simple honesty about a lot of things.
I always call him the Hollywood's greatest trier.
Yeah.
That was just and also like it makes that Jim Carrey documentary make more sense or whatever.
Yeah.
Because like he really pulls a line out of that movie because Jim Carrey talks about basically because he's crazy now. And he talks about like literally every wish he's ever had has come true. Well, but like here's the thing: it was like I wrote myself a $20 million check, and I got $20 million for a movie. Shit like that's happened to Jim Carrey like his entire life now, and he's still unhappy.
Yeah, I tried watching You're talking about the
Jim and Andy?
Yeah, I tried watching that. Like, I thought it was really good for about half of it, and then I just lost interest in it because it was
That's about right. But yeah, it's I don't know. Because you have Hulu, so have you seen Too Funny to Fail?
I think I've...
The one about the Dana Carvey show?
Oh, no, I haven't seen that yet. No.
It's pretty good. You should watch that. It's a Hulu only, so...
Yeah, I think I went past it and meant to watch it, and then did not. But no, it's oh god, no, that Jim and Andy thing was like really depressing, but also really interesting at the same time.
I just thought it was fucking crazy how he makes his fucking the dead guy's parents call him.
Yeah, I know. Like,
Mom
what the
and-
fuck?
Call
And
him
like,
in.
how, like they're really cool with it. Like I don't think they were. Like I'm like no, sorry, I don't believe that.
Well, I don't know.
Because like he really embodied it. It felt like we were talking to him again. It was like, okay.
So
Like Jesus, like it's such a weird. Like I said before, it's like such a weird documentary. It's like speaks to how good an actor Jim Carrey is, and how he really embodied his role.
Well, I think that's the only time he ever did that kind of acting before.
Yeah, I know. Like I'm saying, it's like it's like he only does that kind of acting once, but in his own words, he felt a connection to Andy Kaufman, and he felt like he could really portray him, and he felt he understood him. So it's like, does he just or does he like think he's him basically, or like I don't.
Well, I think he described it as like he said that Andy Kaufman just kind of took over.
Yeah.
And then like he just didn't exist for like however long the shoot was, and then
Well, because I noticed different things when he was changing between him and
Tony Clifton.
Yeah, Tony Clifton. Like Tony Clifton's dressing room always had like naked pictures of like ladies in it and shit. Like any other. Because at first I was like, why the fuck does Jim Carrey need so many fucking naked pictures of people and shit while he's getting fucking putting makeup on? Then I like observed that like, oh yeah, the dressing rooms for each person's different.
But he's also like, getting drunk, wearing a paper bag over his head before the makeup goes on, and he's driving around a lot drunk in his car and crashing into things.
And then I don't know. When people do that kind of shit, like character acting, like half the time, like I either think they're really good and a gifted actor, and other times it's like they're just fucking with people and see what they can get away with.
Well, also that interview with James Franco, like they compare the differences between that and like the shit like that Daniel Day-Lewis does, like, because he said like, yeah, you have to call it like he was talking about like Lincoln, you have to call Daniel Day-Lewis Mr. President, but he also understands, he's looking at a fucking camera and he needs to sit in a certain way and he needs to hit his marks and shit like that. It's like, what is that magic you have there?
Demon.
Jesus. Yeah, I also need to watch There'll Be Blood again because I've seen a lot of shit about that movie.
I don't. Yeah, that's a movie. It's one of those movies I think I know because I've heard so much shit about it, but I've never seen it. But I need to.
It's one of my favorites
I'm surprised
of that guy's movies. Who's that director? Thomas Anderson or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's
Paul
my
Thomas
favorite
Anderson.
of his movies.
The other Paul Anderson. Or
Yeah,
Paul Anderson Prime, not
related to Wes Anderson.
not Paul W.S. Anderson, the director of Mortal Kombat movie and all the Resident Evil movies.
And Event Horizon.
Oh yes, the greatest first half of a movie.
Yeah,
ever.
the greatest half of a movie ever. Well,
Wow, this guy's almost a good director until he isn't.
Yeah. When this thing takes a turn, it's going to be an abrupt sea change. Basically, up will become down and left will become right.
Good will become shit.
Yeah, it's good will turn into shit quickly. The speed of light. Well, I think that's about a wrap, guys. It's almost Christmas.
Yeah.
Christmas. Colin, your gift is on your email.
Yes, I believe I got a message in the middle
Okay.
of this. Thank you for the gift.
Oh, well, thank you. Oh, Grayson opened his stuff, so we opened yours on Friday.
Okay.
And yeah, Secret Hitler was he really thought that was cool.
Okay, I didn't know if you guys had that or not. So.
No, we don't have. Well, it takes 5 to 8, 12 people to play it.
Okay.
I don't even think we even have 5 friends between the 3 of us. But yeah, no, we always liked that. And he liked the aesthetic of it and the look.
All right.
Yeah, when I looked at that board game a couple times, I thought it was really cool. I just didn't know who would get to put together to play it.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem with it. I have a bunch of board games, but
Yeah, because like you had some of that. What's that? It's kind of Risk, but more in depth.
oh, he has the World War II games.
Axis and Allies?
Yeah.
Yeah, he has all the Axis and Allies stuff.
And then I gave you guys that Twilight Struggle card
Twilight
game.
Struggle. We played with that quite a few times. Actually we'll start playing and then we'll talk about the events, and then it's like the hours have gone past. It's like, are we playing a game here or something? Yeah. So because I have like a computer out, like, yeah, this is when this happened.
Twilight Struggle, the impromptu history podcast game.
Yeah. And then what else? There's an art book I want to get because I don't know when and if the Electric State's ever going to come out. But I see someone's bought the rights to make that into a movie.
Is that the Simon Stallhog stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the third one. But then there's another one that's a board game as well as a cool artwork. It's called Scythe. It's the one. It's set in kind of an alternate early 20th century where World War I. Like it ends up being mechs and werewolves, and it's just a weird alternate universe. But these mechs are like giant like buildings, and then there's like a bunch of European peasants like harvesting crops like they would in that time, and it's kind of it's a board game, but people have put mods on it where it's like instead of just a big plastic like this is a mech, like they've just built their own models and. And they've made their own coins that are like bizarre looking and have like eagle heads on them. But there's a whole art book that goes along because the artwork inside was always as amazing as the game. Because it's essentially a resource gather attack type board game, but it's in this interesting alternate universe setting. So yeah, as soon as that Scythe book becomes available, I might buy that.
You have both expansions for that, or just the regular?
I don't have any of it yet. I just want to get the art book from it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't actually.
I've seen it around the shop I frequent, and people talk about it, but I've never seen it played. So
What drew me into it was it's one of my friendly wiretap here. My computer it's like, oh, you were interested in this. Look at that, and I looked at that and I was like, oh, that's a cool. I said that's a board game, huh? And then they had just made an art book, and I was like, yeah, I got to get that art book. That looks pretty cool. Because it's all like turn of the last century type technology with giant mechs and all that nonsense. So, all right. Well, giving everyone something to think about. So we'll reconvene at some point. Like I said, I got the whole rest of the week off, so. We could cram out 15 or 20 of these if you wanted to.
I don't have drill till like February, so.
Well, good. Don't have to worry about that. It'll be good because we can get through the post-Christmas depression. It's gonna come.
I'll run through all 4 seasons of BoJack Horseman again.
Yeah. Let's watch that and a lot of Breaking Bad. Yeah, that is a weird combination. I could try to imagine myself. Imagine these two shows and a bottle of Jack Daniels. Where would I be at the end of that? But yeah, anyway, it didn't happen. So this week's the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Colin.
Andrew.
Goodbye, America.